Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga. Chapter 2882. In the blink of an eye, only a day remained of the agreed date. Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji had yet to return to the battlefield. Over the past few days, Long Chen had obtained a lot of information about his two opponents from Ling Luo, including the laws they were proficient in. Actually, he did not pay too much attention to them. If he understood and was too familiar with his enemies, it would instead be difficult for him to surpass himself. The unknown was the most terrifying. Half a month was very short. It was only enough for him to familiarize himself with the Annihilation Dragon Seal and gain a deep grasp over it. Actually, the Annihilation Dragon Seal could be used with the hand. After dragonification, he could also use the hand. However, now that he had the Demon Suppression Tower, Long Chen just happened to be able to use the Annihilation Dragon Seal with the Demon Suppression Tower. The effect was the same as using the Sword of Time with the God-slaying sword. The Demon Subduing Pagoda's Creation Divine Power could be fused with Chaos Origin Divine Power. The combination of the two greatly increased the lethality of Long Chen's laws. This was the reason why he chose to use the Demon Subduing Pagoda to fight more often after obtaining it. The Sword of Time and the Annihilation Dragon Seal were Long Chen's two trump cards now, especially the Annihilation Dragon Seal. When the sword and the Demon Suppression Tower worked together, their power was obviously limitless. On this day, Long Chen was cultivating on the 4th floor of the God King ranking, preparing for the battle the next day. Suddenly, the entire battlefield shook violently, producing a great rumble. It was not just Long Chen's floor. The entire 200 floors of the battlefield shook. Many battles were forced to stop as well. What's going on? Don't the battles for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place on the God King ranking only begin tomorrow? Currently, many God Kings in the battlefield regarded Long Chen as their idol. They respected Long Chen very much. Long Chen was also very puzzled. He felt a sense of oppression. Long Chen, it's the paradise of gods. It's already landed on the left of the battlefield. That's your battlefield tomorrow. You can come out and take a look first. The Dark Star God King's voice rang out in his ears. Yeah. He was obviously very interested in the paradise of gods, an eternal level of fortune god artifact. These creation divine weapons surpassed the primordial chaos level. Long Chen was unable to see their power for the time being, but it was imaginable that a mere eternal opal could change the dragon sacrificial continent so much. Just as he was about to head out, almost all the godly monarchs lost their will to fight when they heard that it was the Pantheon playground. They rushed out of the God-Fiend battlefield one after another. By the time Long Chen came out of the God-Fiend battlefield, all the godly monarchs in the entire God-Fiend battlefield had probably left. Seeing that it was Long Chen, they quickly made way for him. As for Mo Xiaolang and the rest, they were currently in Long Chen's God Kingdom. The previous battle had been too thrilling. Now that Long Chen's challenge in the Fiend God battlefield was nearing its end, Mo Xiaolang and the other three had also received sufficient training. Now, they had all returned to Long Chen's Divine Kingdom to meditate. They didn't want things to go the same way as last time, where they couldn't do anything about Long Chen's condition. This way, Long Chen could focus more on facing the two new opponents. Wow! When the godly monarchs saw this Pantheon playground, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. This Pantheon playground was simply too huge. It was several times larger than the God-Fiend battlefield. Every level of the God-Fiend battlefield was incomparably vast, like a world of its own. And this Pantheon playground in front of them was actually a world of its own, an immortal realm. Long Chen looked up. In front of him, there should have been a desolate, pitch-black God-Fiend Buzhou mountain. There should have been endless black fog. But now, as far as his eyes could see, there was dense white immortal qi. This was like an immortal realm, endless and boundless. Through the hazy immortal fog, he could vaguely see towering mountains and emerald rivers. He could see endless colorful flowers and lush grasslands. He could see endless forests amidst the snow. He could see the blooming flowers, the tall mountains and flowing rivers. He could see all living things brimming with vitality. What a wonderful world! This Pantheon playground is somewhat similar to my God Kingdom. It's just not as big as my God Kingdom. Moreover, this is indeed a destinable divine artifact. Long Chen secretly compared. This seemed like an immortal realm, but in reality, it was still a destinable divine artifact. This was because this world had a boundary. This was a world that was pressed down on God-Fiend Buzhou Mountain. Moreover, There was an invisible barrier in the sky. Without the permission of the world's owner, no one could rashly barge in. A sealed immortal realm. Immortal fog swirled around the towering mountains. Indistinct immortal palaces could be seen, and immortal cranes danced in the air. All of this was closely linked to the destinable divine artifact's name. Pantheon Playground. From the outside, it was indeed a pantheon playground. Tens of thousands of godly monarchs stared with wide eyes. They looked at this eternal-grade destinable divine artifact with incomparable envy. They had seen many god-fiend battlefields, but this was their first time seeing this pantheon playground. If not for Long Chen, they would not have had the chance to see this pantheon playground. An uproar erupted in the surroundings. The owner of this pantheon playground, the blissful divine emperor of the Tianyin region, hasn't arrived yet, but the destinable divine artifact has arrived first. He'll probably come tomorrow. I heard that Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji will arrive tomorrow too, the Darkstar Divine Emperor said rather sternly as he stood beside Long Chen. When he first saw Long Chen, he never expected him to make it this far. And, even at this level, he still challenged him calmly. Even the Darkstar Divine Emperor admired his courage greatly. Yeah. Long Chen studied the Pantheon Playground closely and asked, "Senior, what's so special about this destinable divine artifact?" The Darkstar Divine Emperor glanced at the Pantheon Playground and said, "It said that when the Heaven region discussed your battle, the blissful Divine Emperor was the one who suggested using the Pantheon Playground as the battlefield. He agreed as soon as he suggested it, because his Pantheon Playground really is very interesting. It's similar to your Divine Sword and Demon Tower in one aspect, which is that the destinable heroic spirits of the Pantheon Playground are 1,000,000 gods and demons, 10 times more than your god-slaying sword. You should understand now that I've said that the Pantheon Playground seems like a playground on the surface, but it's actually a hell for gods and demons. Renaming it to the Pantheon Playground is more fitting." Actually, Long Chen sensed it too. The so-called Pantheon Playground seemed like a fairyland, but it was actually extremely murderous, and it was all hidden. It seemed like a fairyland, but it was actually dangerous and vicious. Otherwise, how could it have slaughtered 1,000,000 gods and demons in the past, 10 times more than the god-slaying sword? The Darkstar Divine Emperor continued, "As a result, when you fight in here, not only do you, Ji Taishu, and Xing Wuji have to be on guard against each other, but you also have to be on guard against the attacks of the 1,000,000 gods and demons. Just the attacks of the 1,000,000 gods and demons are equivalent to the automatic attacks of an eternal-level destinable divine artifact. The 1,000,000 gods and demons can freely control the power of creation, which is rather terrifying. If you're surrounded, you won't even need Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji to do anything. You'll be done for. You have to be on guard against the 1,000,000 gods and demons very well. There are countless of them in the Pantheon Playground." That seems even more interesting. Long Chen was rather dumbfounded. Not only did he have to fight against the other two, but he also had to fight against 1,000,000 gods and demons. It was no wonder he had chosen the Pantheon Playground. If it were just a regular battle royale, he could just find a random location. The Darkstar Divine Emperor shook his head. The Pantheon Playground isn't that simple. First of all, the simplest part is that there's a supreme law in the Pantheon Playground, which is the flight ban. Unless you can escape from the Pantheon Playground, you'll be bound by the flight ban law, which means you won't be able to fly in the Pantheon Playground at all. You can only walk on the ground or jump. It's said that even people at my level can't hover in the air when they enter, let alone the three of you. Being unable to fly is indeed very troublesome, but it's the same for all three. Perhaps it can become my advantage. Long Chen remembered what the Darkstar Divine Emperor had said. He could not help but ask, "Don't tell me there are other problems?" It said that there's soul-devouring wind, heavenly withering water, netherworld soil, death soul incense, and so on. For example, when a gentle breeze blows by, you might find it very comfortable, but it's very likely to be soul-devouring wind. Soul-devouring wind can infiltrate the heart of the laws and rip apart the soul. For example, that surging river seems green and clear, but it's very likely to be heavenly withering water. As long as you come into contact with the slightest bit of heavenly withering water, even your divine body will rot and wither. Death soul incense is a fragrance of flowers, but it can make even gods and demons fall into an eternal slumber, almost to the point of death. The Pantheon Playground basically consists of these three great problems. Long Chen was shocked inside, but all he could do was remember it. He said, "It's exactly because of these three problems that the Pantheon Playground has been chosen for the three of us to fight. Not only do we have to deal with the other two in an environment like this, but we also have to deal with the Pantheon playground itself. It's an extremely great test for everyone, and it also makes the boring challenge interesting and intense. This is probably what those in power want to see. The Dark Star Divine Emperor nodded. That's right. They want to see how you'll change in an environment like this. It's just that the difficulty has increased for the three of you, and the outcome is even more unpredictable. As a matter of fact, luck plays a very large part in it. It's exactly because of this that everyone looks forward to this battle even more. The anticipation is at least 10 times greater than when you fought Tian-E. How extravagant! Even Long Chen could not help but sigh in amazement. However, it also made him look forward to it even more. Just what kind of battle would happen in the Pantheon playground? Alright, there's one last thing. The Dark Star Divine Emperor thought about it and reminded him. The territory of the Pantheon playground is circular, arranged according to the Taiji Yin-Yang fish. At the position of the fish's eyes, which are also the two core positions of the Taiji Yin-Yang fish's formation diagram, there's a formation diagram called the Yin formation and the Yang formation. These are the core of the Pantheon playground, as well as the most dangerous place. It's best if you don't set foot in there. You have to be extra careful in the Pantheon playground. If you set foot in there, you'll be dead for sure. Chapter 2883. The battle would begin in another day, so Long Chen did not plan on returning to the battlefield of gods and demons. He just stood outside the paradise of gods, waiting for the passage of time for the battle to begin. Xueqi, don't worry too much this time. I'm quite confident. Long Chen obviously would not forget to reassure her at all times. Last time had been far too close. Just go all out. I have absolute confidence in you. Ling Shi smiled gently. Actually, they had known each other for so many years, and they were constantly accompanied by the threads of 3 lifetimes of love. What Long Chen was thinking, and what she was thinking, the two of them were extremely clear. Sometimes, even without verbal communication, they could still sense each other's thoughts. Tenderness in their hearts. Slaughter in hand. He stood where he was as calm as steel, but the God Kings were all waiting for him to erupt with power the next day. Even to the great Emperor's heaven of the great wilderness and the heaven-punishing war god planet, he was so insignificant and looked down on. These God Kings in the battlefield of gods and demons all supported Long Chen. They wanted to see Long Chen create a new legend. Before the next day arrived, the two extremely detestable people appeared again. They were the 2 divine kings of the eternal god race. They had always been near the battlefield of gods and demons, preventing Long Chen from escaping. With the lesson from last time, the 2 divine kings could only stand before Long Chen viciously now. They spoke in unison. Long Chen, we've already obtained the heavenly domain execution order, and we're on our way here right now. Once the 6 of them arrive, it'll be the day of your death. You'll have to endure today, so that we can properly entertain you. Isn't it disgusting for 2 people to say the same thing? Long Chen acted like he had not heard about the Heaven Region Kill Order at all. It's still the same thing. Just stay in the battlefield of gods and demons. In less than a month, the Heaven Region Kill Order will arrive, and it'll be time for you to die. With that, the 2 divine kings traveled far away from Long Chen, arriving on the other side of the paradise of gods. Of course, they would not miss out on watching the battle today. After they left, the gazes of the Dark Star Divine Emperor and Long Chen settled down. It hasn't even been half a year, and they've already obtained the Heaven Region Kill Order. Once the 6 of them return, they'll only need to take out the Heaven Region Kill Order, and I'll be out of options. It'll only take a month for them to return from there. The 8 of them will take action, and before the Heaven Region Kill Order, anyone who isn't a final Divine King will have to cooperate with the 8 of them. By then, all I can do is refrain from attacking you. If I protect you, I'll probably be punished even more severely by the Heaven Region Alliance. So what do you plan on doing? Long Chen obviously would not drag the Dark Star Divine Emperor into this. The Dark Star Divine Emperor had protected him a few times, and he had even given him the chaotic origin scripture. The 2 of them had only met by chance, so it was already enough that he had done so much for him. Long Chen was more than grateful to him. 8 divine kings, and they're all from the God Sacrifice Great World. When they work together, they're barely on par with a divine king at perfection. With my current level, it'll obviously be difficult for me to deal with them, but it won't be that easy for them to kill me either. I can still escape. However, the most important thing right now is the battle today. If I can become second on the God King ranking, I'll challenge the first on the God King ranking in half a month. If I become first, I'll definitely undergo a new metamorphosis. By then, I'll obviously have a way to deal with them, Long Chen said very calmly. When he said that, his calmness, forcefulness, and fighting spirit were on full display. During the process of challenging the God King ranking, even if they have the execution order of the Heaven region, they won't be bold enough to touch you. Looks like all your hopes lie in the battle in the Pantheon Paradise. I can't help you, so I can only wish you the best. Long Chen. Sigh, you're a prodigy. If a final Divine King takes a liking to you, the 8 Divine Kings won't be bold enough to touch you even if they have the execution order of the Heaven region. It's just a pity that you don't have the background of Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji. This was the Dark Star Divine Emperor's worry for Long Chen. Long Chen smiled faintly. Senior, that's how fate has been set up, but I'm someone who defies the heavens and changes fate. Defies the heavens and changes fate. The Dark Star Divine Emperor shuddered. His gaze towards Long Chen had already changed. Very good. This battle will be the moment for you to rise up. Many Divine Kings had already arrived from the battlefield of the Emperor Demonic Gods. They hovered above the Pantheon Paradise. As far as the eye could see, there were several hundred Divine Kings in total, and every single one of them was relatively powerful. Only the battlefield of the Demonic Gods could produce such a majestic sight with several hundred Divine Kings gathered together. After all, it was relatively difficult for even a world of order to give birth to a Divine King. Most of them were obviously primordial Divine Kings. However, there were definitely great perfection Divine Kings like Dark Star hidden among them, figures on par with the Donghua Emperor. They had come to watch the battle between Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji. Several hundred Divine Kings had completely suppressed the several tens of thousands of God Kings, such that they dared not utter a single word. At this moment, an ethereal woman shrouded in mist landed on the Pantheon Paradise. The woman basically seemed like the most beautiful creation in the world, flawless and flawless. However, her eyes were slightly cold. Even the several hundred Divine Kings dared not approach her. Blissful Divine King. The Divine Kings greeted her politely in a hurry. Ordinary Ultimate Realm Deity Emperors had a transcendent status among all the Deity Emperors. There were not many Ultimate Realm Deity Emperors in the entire myriad world. It was said that the Blissful Divine King was a figure on the Divine King ranking. The beautiful fairy who had basically fused with the Pantheon Paradise was the Blissful Divine King. Long Chen glanced at her again. He only felt that the Blissful Divine King was definitely as terrifying as the Tushan Divine King. They were both at the same level as the Divine Emperor Di Jun. He just wondered how the Blissful Divine King fared against Di Jun, who's Long Chen. Ever since the Blissful Divine King arrived, she had become the focus of everyone's attention. The gazes that looked at her were filled with respect, awe, and some fear. Her voice had a magical power to it, causing people to be intoxicated by it. It was incomparably beautiful. After hearing her voice, everyone subconsciously turned their gazes to Long Chen. Is it you? When Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji arrive, we'll begin. After seeing Long Chen, the Blissful Divine King did not say anything else. With that, she melded into the Pantheon Paradise and vanished. When Long Chen first heard the name of the Blissful Divine King, he thought it was a bald, smiling man. He never thought it would actually be a woman with such an ethereal bearing. It was just that she was a little too cold. She might as well be called the Frigid Divine King. She has two sides. Right now she's kind and cold, but when she's evil, she'll be blissful. The more beautiful her smile is, the more terrifying she is. The Dark Star Divine King only dared to tell Long Chen softly. He dared not say anything else. He was obviously afraid that Long Chen would offend the Blissful Divine King. Got it. This was the world of the gods, the apex of the myriad worlds. It was Mount Buzhou. Here, Long Chen was no longer the ruler of the dragon sacrificial continent, so he knew what his position was. Now, all he had to do was wait for Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji to arrive. By then, there would definitely be quite a few Divine Emperor groups from the Great Desolation Emperor's Heaven and the Heaven-punishing War God planet. That's Long Chen. He defeated Tian-Yi. I heard he broke through at the very last moment and defeated Tian-Yi, turning the situation around. Vaguely, he could hear the Divine Emperors who had come from the Emperor battlefield to watch the show discussing him. He's not bad, but he seems a little immature, and he has no background. He's much worse off in terms of resources, and his horizons aren't as great as the prodigies like Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji either. He'll always be lacking. His strength to barely defeat Tian Yi isn't enough. You don't know about that. The main event today is the battle between Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji, the battle between the Tianchong region and the Tianchong region. We've invited the Pantheon Paradise and added this Long Chen into the mix just to make the battle between Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji a little more interesting and difficult. It'll make the battle more interesting. Do you really think Long Chen can turn the situation around and reach third place? Neither Ji Taishu nor Xing Wuji could have done it. Speaking of which, if he is lucky and both Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji are injured, he might be the second. Ha! The deity emperors laughed. But they knew it was impossible. That was because this battle wasn't just about the final result, but also the process. The second, third, fourth and fourth place would be determined by the evaluation. The Heaven Region Alliance would send a special evaluation team over, and all of the spectators would evaluate the results together. It's about time. The blissful deity emperor reappeared, sitting on the barrier of the paradise of gods. Her long dress fluttered in the wind, making her look like a celestial maiden from a dream. She was cold and beautiful, and no one dared to approach her. They're here. Everyone couldn't help but look into the distance. They saw 3 teams suddenly appear on the horizon. Each team had about 10 people, and they came from 3 different directions. On the left is the Great Yellow Monarch Heavenly Region, and in the middle is the evaluation team of the Heavenly Region Alliance. Everyone is from the Heavenly God region, and I heard that the Bliss Divine Emperor is also a member of the evaluation team. On the right is the Heaven-Punishing War God Star. Don't worry, there are 10 Perfection Realm Deity Emperors from the Heavenly God region. Their evaluation will definitely be fair. The Dark Star Divine Emperor said. Long Chen gazed into the distance. In the center was a group of black-haired, white-robed deity emperors. Every single one of them was around the same level as the Dark Star Divine Emperor, while the ones on the left and right came in all shapes and sizes. The ones in the lead were probably all final deity emperors. However, the ones who attracted his attention the most were still Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji. It was a mere battle between god kings, yet 3 final deity emperors had appeared. It was quite grand. After all, apart from the overlords and godly venerables, the strongest final deity emperors were all final deities of the primeval god realm. Ji Taishu was a man who was born with the might of an emperor. He wore yellow robes with rolling dragons, a golden crown, and golden boots. His eyes were like golden pearls, and his presence surged as waves of air surged behind him. Although he was only a deity emperor, his divine might actually rivaled the final deity emperor beside him. His supreme presence was not something a simple god king could possess. He had to be the son of a god, the son of an emperor. The other deity emperor was Xing Wuji. Compared to Ji Taishu's surging presence, Xing Wuji seemed extremely ordinary. She was just a woman in tight, black, embroidered clothes. She was extremely beautiful, but she did not dress up much. She was clean and straightforward, and her long hair was tied up in a bun. She was as agile as a cheetah. Her pure black eyes pierced through the sea of people immediately and saw Long Chen. Boom! Chapter 2884. The group from the Imperial Heaven of the Great Wilderness was led by the Divine King Ed, a final Divine King on par with the Divine King Tushan. He was a good friend of Shenjun. Ji Taishu's foster father possessed a rather great status in the Imperial Heaven of the Great Wilderness. Basically all the Divine Kings in the Emperor Heaven of the Great Wilderness paid close attention to Ji Taishu's battle on the battlefield. They obviously wanted to see Ji Taishu defeat Xing Wuji. On the heaven-punishing war god planet, there was the equally tyrannical and famous Xueqi god emperor, a peerless god emperor throughout the myriad of worlds. This heaven-connecting divine king was called the heaven-connecting god. He was actually the brother of the heaven punisher. He also possessed a great status on the heaven-punishing war god planet. The divine king Ed and the heaven-connecting god had been rivals for many years. A challenge between juniors was also a competition between them. 3 final divine kings had come for a single challenge against the god king ranking. This was basically unprecedented. Not to mention the fact that the assessment team of the Heaven Region Alliance had many great perfection divine kings. Although the battle had been arranged outside the battlefield of gods and demons, the Dark Star God King had no right to speak before such a lineup. Of course, even though there were 3 final divine kings, The ones who received the most attention were still Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji. Long Chen watched closely. Ji Taishu was born to be an emperor, able to look down on the entire world. Even when he held back, he still radiated with divine might. His expression was indifferent, but he was extremely arrogant. However, he maintained his composure and rationality at all times. His nobility surpassed the countless gods and demons of the entire world. Across the entire world, perhaps not many people could match up to him. As a result, it was extremely normal for him to be arrogant. On the other hand, Xing Wuji was simple and pure, but also passionate and crazy. Hidden in her calm eyes was definitely a storm of battle that could sweep through the entire world. It was the roar and roar of the soul of battle. The three of them formed a triangle, hovering above the paradise of gods. Following Xing Wuji's gaze, Ji Taishu also saw Long Chen. However, he did not care. He cared more about Xing Wuji, so his gaze was fixed on Xing Wuji's petite figure at all times. An extremely confident smile hung on his lips. He had prepared for this moment for a very long time. Even with the addition of Long Chen and the Paradise of Gods, it was unable to affect his plan. The three parties arrived, but none of them spoke. God Emperor Yi and God Emperor Tong Tian exchanged glances. The blissful God Emperor's gaze swept across the crowd and he said, "If there's nothing else, let's begin. A challenge from the younger generation is not a big deal. Don't make it look like a civil war in the Heaven Region Alliance." She was very powerful, and she could come and go without a trace, so she was not afraid of offending others. At this moment, she had opened up 3 entrances in 3 locations quite far away from the paradise of the gods. Long Chen and the others could use these entrances to cross the barrier of the paradise of the gods and enter this dreamlike wonderland to battle. All right, let's begin then. Xing Wuji, let's meet in the paradise of the gods. Ji Taishu's voice was loud and clear, carrying with it an innate sense of authority. His voice contained the rule of an emperor. No matter what he said, it seemed to contain the power of the rule of Long Chen's wish, causing people to involuntarily obey him. Just by relying on this voice, Ji Taishu could control all gods and devils under the God-King realm, much less mortals. Xing Wuji did not say much and was about to head towards one of the entrances. Judging from the positions of the entrances, the 3 parties were quite far away from each other at the beginning, so they had a certain amount of time to prepare. Wait! Suddenly, Ji Taishu stopped in his tracks. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he looked at Xing Wuji again and said, "In the past, battles were not very interesting. It's rare that so many god emperors have come to watch. I have to make it more interesting. Let's make a bet. This Fortune Divine Stone was a gift from my father. I was planning on using it to form a blood bond with the mountain and river brush. Today, if you have the ability, it will be yours." As Ji Taishu spoke, he took out a 5-colored divine stone. In a flash, he put the Fortune Divine Stone back. But even though it only appeared for a moment, the dense aura it gave off was enough to make the gods drool. Although Long Chen did not know what the mountain and river brush could do, it should have the same effect as the Divine Providence Crystal. He just did not know if it could restore the Lingsu swords. This Creation Divine Stone should be a chaos treasure at the primordial chaos level. The gods took a deep breath and looked at Xing Wuji. The daughters of the godly sovereigns were really extravagant to use a treasure like the Fortune Divine Stone as a bet so casually. To the godly kings, this was something they could only dream of. Primordial spark. Xing Wuji's face was cold in the face of Ji Taishu's provocation. Her voice was deep and magnetic. Although she was a woman, it sounded masculine and ferocious like a tiger. Although she did not say what the primordial spark was, it must be similar to the Fortune Divine Stone. All right, it may not be of much use to me, but I must have this primordial spark, Ji Taishu said. With that, he walked towards one of the entrances. From the beginning to the end, Long Chen did not seem to care. The gods of the Great Wilderness Emperor's heavenly region and the heaven-punishing war god planet did not pay much attention. To them, this challenge was more of a matter between the 2 of them. Therefore, no one paid attention to Long Chen's bet. Wait! The High Bliss Divine Emperor shouted coldly. "Isn't this the Godly King List challenge? According to the rules, you should show your wager. What's your bet?" When the High Bliss Divine Emperor asked this question to Long Chen, the gods who had ignored Long Chen finally remembered that he existed. However, they soon laughed. What kind of wager could a god like Long Chen, who had no background. I'll take the sun-shot divine bow. Unexpectedly, Long Chen's next words made the gods shut their mouths. The sun-shot divine bow. He had won it from Tian-yi. Taking out this item meant that Long Chen wasn't afraid of the pressure from Tian-yi and the supreme burning sun god realm. At the same time, either he didn't think much of this primordial chaos divine artifact, or he was confident in his own battle. Either way, it showed his boldness in front of the two geniuses. A primordial chaos divine weapon was worth more than a primordial chaos immortal essence or a primordial chaos treasure. The High Bliss Divine Emperor was very satisfied. According to the rules of the three-way challenge, the one who defeats the other can take the other's wager. As for the one who defeats the other, it will be up to us to decide. This was easy to understand. For example, if Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji ganged up on Long Chen, but Xing Wuji used too much power and caused Long Chen's defeat, then Long Chen's Sunshot Divine Bow would belong to Xing Wuji. If Xing Wuji defeated Ji Taishu, and Ji Taishu defeated Long Chen, then Ji Taishu would lose the Fortune Divine Stone, but win Long Chen's Sunshot Divine Bow. The battle had not yet begun, but the smell of gunpowder had already filled the air. Very good. I can take this Sunshot Divine Bow and do Tian-yi a favor. Ji Taishu looked at Long Chen a few more times, and he couldn't help but smile. Perhaps it was because Long Chen took out the Sunshot Divine Bow that he noticed Long Chen. But in his heart, he felt that Long Chen was just trying to look impressive. Your name is Long Chen? See you in the Pantheon Paradise. The rules were set, and the wager was set. All the participating gods started to take their positions on the Pantheon Paradise's barrier. Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji were surrounded by their respective forces, and they walked towards the two entrances in the distance, leaving the closest entrance for Long Chen. The god kings could see the battle from above the Pantheon Paradise. But after entering, Long Chen couldn't see the outside anymore. All he could see was an azure blue sky, green mountains, and clear waters. Long Chen, you must not lose the Sunshot Divine Bow. It wasn't easy for you to win it back. When Long Chen was about to step into the Pantheon Paradise, Old Pig led a group of god kings and said with a pained expression, "Don't worry." Long Chen smiled at him. In this battle, he would once again surpass the limits he wanted to surpass. This was his ultimate goal. This was his test for the past few months to break through to the God King list. Long Chen knew better than anyone that with the Divine Region kill order on him, he had no way out. Li Xuanji was in trouble, and Di Jun was chasing after him. If he was not strong enough, he would die. I have to surprise them in the Pantheon Paradise. Long Chen's eyes were resolute. He looked at Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu's positions. These two opponents were more afraid of each other. At this time, they had already entered the Pantheon Paradise. Long Chen looked down at the green mountains and rivers, and the dreamy clouds, then jumped down as well. The blissful God Emperor closed the entrance. From then on, they were completely sealed in the Pantheon Paradise. Without the blissful God Emperor's permission, no one could come out. When Long Chen first entered, he experienced the first problem of the Pantheon Paradise. Flight restriction. This was the rule of an eternal grade destinable artifact. It was as if the blissful God Emperor was dealing with him. This kind of existence could easily kill Long Chen. Even if it was just a rule, the effect was considerable. Now that Long Chen had just entered, he was in the blue sky and white clouds. In an instant, he felt an irresistible force that was swallowing him and smashing him downwards. In truth, it surpassed the suction force of the demonic god's mouth. Since there was no way to resist, Long Chen did not resist. He allowed the flight restriction rule to drag him down. The air rumbled in his ears, and the immortal fog was broken by him. In the blink of an eye, a vast expanse of green mountains appeared below him, and a dense forest covered the land. Senior Dark Star said that the most beautiful things are actually disasters and dangers. Long Chen's heart was on high alert. In the other two positions in the Pantheon Paradise, Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu were also falling at high speed. Whoosh! The ground below became clearer and clearer. They were about to smash into the ground. Long Chen took a closer look. Below him was a raging river. The river water was dark green, flowing into the distance. Smashing into the river is better than hitting rock or the ground, thought Long Chen. This was the interior of an eternal-grade destinable artifact. Who knew just how tough the rock here was? However, he immediately became alert. The dark green river water was shrouded in white mist. It was extremely beautiful. Did this not confirm what the Dark Star God Emperor had said? What he did not know was that outside the Pantheon paradise, the divine emperors were all laughing. Chapter 2885. Heavenly Withering Water? The Dark Star God King had once mentioned that there was heavenly withering water in the Pantheon paradise. If they came into contact with even a tiny bit of it, their bodies would wither and they would die. No God King dared to touch it, let alone smash into the heavenly withering water. If regular final God Kings fell into the heavenly withering water, they would clearly lose their lives here. They could not escape. Even those on the God King ranking would be heavily injured. However, these were the rules of the Pantheon paradise. Seeing how unlucky Long Chen was, the God Kings were rather helpless. Surely they could not ask the blissful God King to save Long Chen. If that was the case, the Pantheon paradise would be pointless. Seeing how Long Chen was about to smash into the heavenly withering water, the God Kings could only feel pity for Long Chen. Of course, most of them were very confident in him. He'll either die or be injured. This was the conclusion of the God Emperors from the Emperor battlefield. In the next moment, Long Chen was indeed pulled into the raging river by the laws of flight. In that moment, water splashed everywhere. Not only did Long Chen fail to escape from the heavenly withering water, but the irresistible laws of flight even forced him into the bottom of the river, shattering the rocks there. This is interesting. He's been dealt a heavy blow as soon as he enters. Many of the God Emperors could not help but smile faintly. They had never seen Long Chen fight, so they did not take him too seriously. Now that something like this had happened as soon as the battle began, it was very difficult for them to not look down on Long Chen. But in the next moment, a green flame rushed out of the Emerald River. It stepped on the water's surface and finally charged out, landing on a cliff beside the river. The cliff was carved with swords, but it was not dangerous. Long Chen's body had already recovered from the corrosion of the heavenly withering water. Only then did he disperse his flame of life. Right now, he was completely unscathed. That sure was dangerous. His flame of life just happened to be the bane of the heavenly withering water. The heavenly withering water corroded, but his flame of life regenerated. Otherwise, with the lethality of the heavenly wither water, even a primordial chaos celestial spirit might not be able to save him. It was because of this that the celestial emperors found it unbelievable when they saw Long Chen emerge from the river unscathed. Many primordial realm celestial emperors imagined that if they were to fall into the heavenly withering water, they would definitely not be able to do it as easily as Long Chen did. I heard that this Long Chen's attainments in the nomological laws aren't bad. It seems that he does have some skills. Boundless and Void quickly hid themselves. The battle has just begun. To be honest, everyone in the Pantheon paradise is looking forward to their battle. Soon, the attention and topic of the celestial emperors was still on Xueqi and Ji Taishu. Forbidden flight rules. Because of this law, Long Chen's speed was greatly suppressed. In front of him was an endless mountain range. It was an endless territory that spanned more than 1,000,000 kilometers. Furthermore, there was great suppression and danger. He couldn't enter the Yin formation or Yang formation by mistake. It would definitely affect his speed. I'll need some time to find them unless I create a huge commotion to lure them over. It's best I search for them in secret. Battles in the forest were interesting in concealment and the unknown. Making use of one's surroundings to fight was also an art. Long Chen entered the time-roving dragon state and headed in the direction of Ji Taishu's location according to his memories. Ji Taishu and Xueqi will clearly head for each other. I'll head for the center of their meeting. Long Chen didn't fear them, nor did he wish to hide and take advantage of them. This was because this was a battle to determine his score. Even if he had full combat strength in the end, if Xueqi and Ji Taishu were defeated, Long Chen would still be ranked 4th on the Godly Monarch list if he didn't do enough. Even if he won with a sneak attack, he would still be ranked 4th on the Godly Monarch list. That would be considered a defeat. If he wanted to be 2nd, he had to participate in the battle and win. Therefore, he couldn't avoid it. He moved quickly and fiercely. Under the restriction of flying, he crossed mountains, rivers, and rivers. Under the time-roving dragon, even the godly monarchs lost sight of Long Chen's figure. In the end, it was the blissful divine emperor who marked Long Chen's location. Looking at his direction, he's heading for the center of the meeting between Taishu and Wuji. Is he waiting for Taishu and Wuji to be injured before making his move? That's a smart idea. But even if he succeeds, this sneak attack will only allow him to be ranked 4th on the godly monarch list. After all, Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu were moving in the opposite direction. Long Chen's target was the point where they would meet. The distance was longer than the distance they had to travel. By the time Long Chen arrived, it was likely that the victor would be decided. However, if the battle in the paradise of the gods was so simple, there would be no need for the blissful divine emperor. In the eyes of the gods, the blissful divine emperor's hands had already touched the barrier of the paradise of the gods. She was very focused, as if there was no one around. 1,000,000 gods and demons have appeared. Each of them has about 330,000 gods and demons. The blissful divine emperor is quite fair. These gods and demons can give them a head-on blow before they meet, disrupting their rhythm of battle. How to preserve their strength in such a high rate of exhaustion will be a huge test for them. Moreover, the forbidden space law, yellow spring soil, soul-devouring wind, withering heaven's water, dead soul incense, and many others are accompanying them at all times. Ji Taishu had just barged through a soul-devouring wind, and it was really dangerous. Even his primordial spirit was ruthlessly scraped a few times. Just as he was about to recuperate, the appearance of 1,000,000 gods and demons is a little unfair to him. There's no such thing as fairness. This is the paradise of the gods. If that's the case, wouldn't it be even more unfair for Long Chen to fall into the withering heaven's water the moment he entered? Outside the paradise of the gods were discussing. Unknowingly, the topic of Long Chen, which was originally focused on Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu, had become more and more frequent. At this moment, the fortuitous heroic spirits army in the paradise of the gods appeared. At this time, Long Chen had just stepped onto a grassland. He took a closer look and saw that the grassland in front of him was verdant and lush. A light breeze brushed past, and a fragrant scent wafted in his face. It was vaguely comforting. This wind. He couldn't help but suspect that the more beautiful a place was, the more dangerous it was. This grassland was endless, and it was a magnificent green field. Perhaps it was a land of murder. Especially the soul-devouring wind, which was 10 times more difficult to deal with than the withering heaven's water. After all, it directly targeted one's primordial spirit. He had no choice but to take a detour. Behind him was a forest, and Long Chen had just come out of it. Just as he was about to take a detour, a boundless killing intent suddenly came from behind him. The originally peaceful world was suddenly filled with the sounds of battle. For a moment, it was deafening. From the forest behind him, an extremely cold killing intent, blood, and evil surged out. In that instant, countless gods and demons appeared in the forest. Every god-fiend seemed to be real. Every god-demon was different. They specialized in different laws, wielded different destinable divine artifacts, and had the same killing intent that could tear apart heaven and earth. It was still fine if it was just one, but when the killing intent of 330,000 gods and demons gathered together, it instantly gave Long Chen an incomparably violent impact. Kill! In that instant, the battle cries were like heavy hammers, and they swept over like monstrous waves. 330,000 gods and demons used hundreds of thousands of laws. The beautiful forest and the boundless greenery in front of them were instantly destroyed. But the soul-devouring wind still existed. In front of him was the soul-devouring wind, and behind him were 330,000 gods and demons. Long Chen smiled helplessly. Is this still the King God board battle? It's like the three of us are challenging the paradise of the gods. But interesting. He was not intimidated. Out of 1,000,000 gods and demons, 330,000 had appeared here. Clearly, Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu were facing the same attack at the same time. He just didn't know how they were doing. Long Chen couldn't care less. All he needed to do was to resist it himself. If I charge into the plains, the soul-devouring wind will also chase after me. That's double the danger. So I have to charge into the forest. Although it was called a forest, it was already completely destroyed. Long Chen made a prompt decision. When the 330,000 gods and demons charged at him, he did not retreat, nor was he chased. Instead, he charged bravely into the ranks of gods and demons, clashing head-on. The battle between me and the 330,000 gods and demons will definitely be included in the assessment. Any performance is a way for me to become stronger. With this thought, Long Chen was much more decisive. Outside the paradise of the gods, countless god kings watching felt their hearts tighten. In their eyes, the three challengers were facing the attacks of the 330,000 gods and demons. Among them, Long Chen was in the most danger. He was surrounded by the soul-devouring wind, but he was smart enough not to be chased into it. But it was also troublesome, because he had nowhere to run. Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu were trying to avoid fighting with the 330,000 gods and demons. They were conserving their fighting strength. The 330,000 gods and demons were chasing after them, but they could not pose any threat to them in a short period of time. If it wasn't for the soul-devouring wind, Long Chen would have been able to escape. Therefore, Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu could be seen cautiously approaching each other as they fought, while Long Chen fought the gods and demons head-on. In terms of the situation, Long Chen's side was undoubtedly the most powerful. On the great wilderness monarch side, more than 10 god emperors stared at Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu. In the paradise of the gods, the million gods and demons are immortal. It's said that the blissful god emperor will make them appear for 2 hours to exhaust their god force. Taishu and Xing Wuji are doing very well, not tangling with them and preparing for battle. That Long Chen doesn't understand this at all. Fighting the gods and demons head-on, even if he survives 2 hours later, how much fighting strength will he have left to face Taishu and Wuji? Therefore, this battle is still a battle between Taishu and Wuji. This Long Chen's purpose is nothing more than to divert everyone's attention. The discussions in other places were more or less the same. The God Kings also knew that Long Chen fighting the gods and demons wasn't a wise move. After all, the gods and demons couldn't be completely killed. But they had to admit that Long Chen's luck was terrible. The soul-devouring wind was right in front of him. How was he supposed to escape? In truth, when fighting the 330,000 gods and demons, Long Chen understood. Chapter 2886. In other words, even if Long Chen had the power of belief and abundant divine force, he would tire himself to death sooner or later if he continued fighting like this. However, he was surrounded by 330,000 god fiends, with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. There was no end to them. Killing his way out of their encirclement was already relatively difficult. Long Chen had missed the opportunity to escape at the beginning, so he was basically completely surrounded now. These god fiends did not fear death at all, as they did not have to die in the first place. All of them were suicidal attacks. At the very least, they could wear down Long Chen to death in the end. After all, they were using the power of eternal-level creation god artifacts. This was equivalent to Long Chen fighting against a third of an eternal-level creation god artifact. If there's no soul-devouring wind ahead of Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji, they probably won't be surrounded. Even without the power of belief, it'll be much easier. I need to find a way to break out of this stalemate, or even if I charge out, their battle will end. No matter how much power of belief I have, it'll all be used up. Long Chen understood this deeply. Actually, he had already become a joke outside the paradise of gods. Only he was surrounded by 330,000 god fiends. The divine kings only cared about the battle between Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu. Only the god kings on the battlefield of the demonic and divine battlefield were still worried about Long Chen. Sigh. The dark star god emperor could not help but sigh. It was the withering heavens water at the beginning, followed by the soul-devouring wind. It seemed fair, but it was actually unfair. The divine king of bliss had still given Long Chen a little more tests. Clearly, even she herself believed Long Chen was a troublemaker. But at this moment, the dark star god emperor heard the clamor of the god kings. He looked over seriously. Actually, it was Long Chen who had come up with a solution. In the beginning, he used other laws to fight, and basically every time, large swathes of god fiends would disperse, but they would condense again very soon, maintaining the same number at all times. He could fight like this for several tens of thousands of years. As a result, Long Chen came up with an idea. He drew circles with his hands and opened up the Death Realm Dragon Gate. He held the Death Realm Dragon Gate in his hand and expanded it infinitely. The Death Realm Dragon Gate blew a chilling wind, and wherever it went, a large number of gods and devils were swallowed by Long Chen and were sucked into the Death Realm. Soon, the godly monarchs saw that the god fiends that were swallowed into the Death World did not reform. Instead, they disappeared. Long Chen was using the Death World Dragon Gate to slaughter the 330,000 gods and demons. Such rules. The other deity emperors who were still paying attention to Xueqi and Ji Taishu suddenly heard Extreme Bliss deity emperor's exclamation. The other deity emperors couldn't help but look over, and they all saw this scene. Damn it! Divine Emperor Bliss suddenly laughed. This smile sent chills down the spines of the god emperors. Retreat! In an instant, with just a thought from the blissful divine emperor, all the gods and devils around Long Chen vanished. It became empty. Long Chen was stunned for a moment, but he immediately understood that it was the blissful god emperor's doing. Is she feeling sorry for these gods and devils? Naturally, Long Chen knew what the blissful god emperor was thinking. If he allowed the Death Realm Dragon Gate to continue, the blissful god emperor would suffer huge losses. She wouldn't allow her treasures to be damaged just because of a battle on the godly king board. Hence, she immediately withdrew the 330,000 gods and devils. Long Chen bowed to the heavens and earth. I'm sorry, Senior Blissful. Long Chen had no choice but to do this. I hope Senior won't stoop to my level. He didn't want to offend the blissful god emperor. Hence he spoke up. As an ultimate deity emperor, the blissful god emperor naturally wouldn't stoop to his level. It's fine. As expected, the blissful god emperor's attitude towards him was much gentler. Outside the Pantheon paradise, the blissful god emperor's actions had aroused the dissatisfaction of deity emperor E and Xueqi deity emperor. Blissful, what's the meaning of completely withdrawing the gods and devils? Xueqi and Ji Taishu are still being entangled by them. The deity emperors of the great wilderness monarch heaven and heaven-punishing war god star were all dissatisfied. The blissful god emperor said indifferently, he already has a way to deal with the gods and devils. At this speed, he will be able to kill all 330,000 gods and devils in less than a quarter of an hour. Moreover, he won't be injured at all. This is his capability. Whether I withdraw them or not, the result will be the same. Do I have to lose 330,000 gods and devils for the sake of your two families' juniors? Will you compensate me? It was obvious that after executing the Death Realm Dragon Gate, Long Chen was instantly relieved of any pressure. It didn't matter whether he withdrew them or not. However, the two families' deity emperors were still in a daze. They didn't expect Long Chen to have such mystical laws. He actually killed 330,000 gods and devils before Xueqi and Ji Taishu. They couldn't accept it, but they couldn't deny the shock in their hearts. They asked for the opinions of the heavenly god domain's deity emperors. The deity emperors discussed for a while and sent out a representative who said, Long Chen has shown his talent and capability in the field of laws, and he managed to restrain the 330,000 gods. We believe that the blissful deity emperor did the right thing. If Ji Taishu and Xueqi also have a way to eradicate the 330,000 gods, then the blissful deity emperor will also remove them. This is fair to everyone. Please take Long Chen's strength seriously. With this statement, the matter was settled. After all, they were the ones who were impartial. The great wilderness monarch heaven and heaven-punishing war god star were just spectators. According to the rules, they had no authority to influence the battle. Long Chen's small reversal made the deity emperors excited. They saw hope for Long Chen again. Even if he lost in the end, it was enough to shock the deity emperors in the battlefield. These are just small tricks. Since it's the Godly King List challenge, we still have to see the real battle between them. Not this kind of luck. In the great wilderness monarch heaven, one of the deity emperors was unconvinced and said sourly. However, what she said made sense. Nothing could be determined now. Who would be ranked second and fourth on the Godly King List would still have to depend on the battle between them. The gods turned their attention back to the battlefield. Without the gods and devils chasing after him, Long Chen's speed increased by 10 times as fast as Xueqi and Ji Taishu. He bypassed the endless grassland and headed towards the direction where Xueqi and Ji Taishu would meet. All the gods could see his determination to fight a fierce battle. Decisive and fierce. This way, they would most likely meet at the same place. Time passed. Seeing that they were getting closer to each other, the gods grew even more excited. The deity emperors were even more nervous than Long Chen himself. Because Long Chen couldn't see Xueqi and Ji Taishu, but they could. Along the way, Long Chen encountered a few more dangers. First was the Death Soul Incense. When he first encountered it, Long Chen fell to the ground and was attacked by the Death Soul Incense. This time, he withstood the power of the Death Soul Incense and woke up from the edge of sleep. However, he was still groggy and weak. It was dangerous for him to fight in such a state. He also encountered the yellow spring soil, but it didn't cause much damage. It allowed his fire of life to recover. If I'm in such a state, they should be affected as well. Long Chen knew this. Therefore, even though he wasn't very clear-headed, he didn't retreat. Instead, as he advanced, his god power increased and his mind became clearer. After a while, the power of the Death Soul incense was completely eradicated. Gods and devils. Suddenly, many gods and devils appeared in front of him. He didn't know that the godly kings outside were already exclaiming. He knew that the gods and devils around him had long disappeared. The gods and devils he met here were likely to be either Xueqi or Ji Taishu. He crossed many mountains and stood on the highest peak. Looking out, he saw a huge basin in front of him. It was like a huge pit. There were 2 teams on both sides, and each was an army of 330,000 gods and devils. The gods and devils were vast and mighty. Everywhere they went, many things were destroyed. The 2 teams of gods and devils were chasing 2 people. Those 2 people were Xueqi and Ji Taishu. They rushed into the wide basin at the same time and met each other head-on. And Long Chen was on the highest peak next to it. Are they all here? They met head-on, but they didn't see Long Chen yet. Outside the paradise of the gods, the other gods thought that Long Chen was going to hide. But unexpectedly, just as they were about to encounter him, Long Chen leaped from the peak of the mountain and smashed heavily into the basin. With a loud bang, the ground around Xueqi and Ji Taishu crumbled. Long Chen stood directly in front of them. The 3 of them met directly. The distance between them was less than 1,000 meters. Long Chen barged into the encirclement of the 330,000 gods and devils. Instantly, many of the gods and devils split off to attack Long Chen. Ji Taishu and Xueqi had met in the middle of the encirclement. It was thrilling enough. Just as they were about to fight, they didn't expect Long Chen to barge in at this time. They didn't expect Long Chen to barge into the center of their meeting despite being chased by the gods and devils. This meant that Long Chen had crossed the longest distance. They quickly realized that Long Chen had shaken off the gods and devils that were chasing them. No gods and devils are chasing you? Ji Taishu asked solemnly. I've already dealt with them. Long Chen's words scared Ji Taishu. He couldn't help but look at Long Chen a few more times. Previously, he didn't care much about Long Chen, but now he had to admit that because of him, the battle had become much more troublesome. On the other side, Xueqi was killing the gods and devils. Ji Taishu frowned. The 600,000 gods and devils were still attacking in a frenzy. This was going to be a commotion. Then let's have a chaotic battle here. Isn't that the most exciting? Ji Taishu's gaze was like the blazing sun. He looked at Xueqi and said, Xueqi, don't you think this guy is a hindrance? Let's work together to deal with him first, then have a fair battle. How about that? I'll give you his sun-shot divine bow. In order to deal with the problem of Long Chen, he was willing to give up his sun-shot divine bow. Xueqi looked at him coldly and said decisively, I don't like alliances. Let's fight however we want. In a chaotic battle, everyone was an opponent. That was the scariest. Ji Taishu was slightly angered. Xueqi's personality was like this. He wouldn't listen to him and form an alliance. He rolled his eyes and said to Long Chen, Then let's work together to deal with Xueqi first. How about that? She's much stronger than me. If not for the current situation, he wouldn't even be bothered to talk to Long Chen. Chapter 2887. Ji Taishu couldn't help but chuckle. He was well aware of Xueqi's personality, so he let it go. But this Long Chen had responded in such a manner right before his eyes. In that instant, Ji Taishu was truly enraged. In truth, they were still being attacked by over 600,000 gods. Ji Taishu quickly calmed himself down. What he wanted the most now was to find a quiet place to battle Xueqi. But with the paradise of the gods and Long Chen in the way, he was extremely dissatisfied. But he had to accept this reality, this situation. The 3 of them were in the basin, and in that instant, a battle broke out between them. This was unavoidable. Especially Xueqi and Ji Taishu. They had conserved their god force in the face of 330,000 gods so that when they met, they would be able to defeat their opponents quickly. Mountain and river brush. Stately painting. Ji Taishu's long hair fluttered in the wind, and his godly might surged. The god force born from the heart of a monarch surrounded him like a vortex. It was a formless power that formed a terrifying deterrent. When these two destinable artifacts appeared, the surrounding gods were shattered, and the space around Ji Taishu was emptied. Long Chen noticed that in Ji Taishu's left hand, there was a painting in the form of an ink painting. Within the painting, there was heaven and earth, mountains and rivers, the sun, moon, stars, trees, and living beings. Although it was a painting, the energy fluctuations within it were constantly changing, giving birth to a mystical power. It was as if the painting itself was a real world. This was the stately painting. In his right hand, there was a brush. It was a brush, and the ink painting seemed to have been drawn by this brush. It looked ordinary, but wherever the brush passed, there was a feeling of time and space changing, and all things submitting to it. With the mountain and river brush and stately painting, Ji Taishu's aura instantly rose to the level of a ruler, above Long Chen and Xueqi. He was high above, like a god that ruled over all. However, when Ji Taishu's aura was monstrous, Xueqi only needed to move a little and an incomparably intense battle intent would burst forth. This was the strongest battle law expert Long Chen had ever seen. She was a woman born to fight, just like how Long Chen was born to kill. The resulting tremor shook the entire paradise of gods. For a moment, it was as if the gods' paradise was about to explode under the impact of his intense battle intent. Xueqi looked petite, her skin soft and delicate, but at this moment, her petite body was holding a huge bronze shield that could completely cover her entire body. The shield was simple and heavy, and there was a pattern carved on it. It seemed to be a boundless sky that was collapsing, but there was a person holding the shield, blocking the collapse of the sky, protecting the billions of lives under his feet. It was the celestial shield. The celestial shield was very impactful, but the heaven-splitting axe in her right hand was even more shocking. It was a huge broad axe that seemed to have been around for countless years. Its surface was covered in rust, and it looked like it would shatter at any moment. Even the edge of the axe was very blunt, but no one dared to underestimate the power of the heaven-splitting axe. Long Chen only took one look at it, and he was deeply shocked. It was as if his body had been split apart by the heaven-splitting axe. The son of a hierarch is indeed rich in resources. Just in terms of destinable artifacts, he far surpasses ordinary godly kings. Long Chen thought to himself, but he also had the divine sword and the devil pagoda by his side. The war songs of 100,000 gods rang out from the devil pagoda, and from the god-slaying sword, the 100,000 demon armies killing intent soared to the sky. Outside the paradise of gods, the godly kings held their breaths, their hearts filled with anxiety. The godly emperors also stopped chatting and focused on the battle. A chaotic battle between the three. Everyone was an enemy, and everyone was a comrade. The battle started with Ji Taishu. When the mountain and river brush and the stately painting were in place, divine light suddenly burst out from his eyes. Two characters faintly appeared in his eyes. The divine light swept out, trapping Long Chen and Xueqi within it. This was a rule that could suppress everything. Eye of the Emperor, gods and demons kneel. Above the sky, a deafening roar rang out like a great bell. This divine light and voice carried with it an incomparably strong suppression and control. This was Ji Taishu's Emperor Century Rule, and this Eye of the Emperor was somewhat similar to Long Chen's Destiny Heavenly Eye and Heart's Eye of Desire. In that instant, divine might filled the air. Ji Taishu seemed to have turned into a giant, and all he commanded was the power of the rule. Long Chen was suppressed by this, and he almost knelt on the ground. But he quickly used the Destiny Heavenly Eye to block the Eye of the Emperor. Using fate to resist authority was very effective, and it allowed Long Chen to move freely within this rule. Of course, he was not the only one who broke Ji Taishu's rule. On the other side, Xueqi's battle intent surged. The Eye of the Emperor seemed to have no effect on her at all. At this moment, her eyes also shone with boundless divine light. Her entire being had turned into a terrifying god of war. With the heaven-splitting axe and spherical heaven shield in her hands, her target was not Long Chen, but Ji Taishu. They subconsciously treated the other party as their mortal enemy. Ignoring me? Long Chen sneered. Actually, it was already surprising that he could resolve the Eye of the Emperor so quickly. Now, without a second word, he used the divine sword and devil pagoda to attack Ji Taishu. In an instant, it became Xueqi and Long Chen attacking Ji Taishu together, Despicable. The deity emperors of the great desolate king's heaven were somewhat unhappy. However, the change in the battle was huge. Heaven splitting. Long Chen witnessed Xing Wuji's battle Dao. Decisive, direct, and without any expenditure. The rule was the most ferocious attack and killing power. Just like at this moment, she directly wielded the heaven-splitting axe. A weaker woman single-handedly wielded the heaven-splitting axe that was even larger than her. The heaven-splitting axe was firmly grasped in her hand, without the slightest tremble. Heaven-splitting's rule. In that instant, Xing Wuji seemed to transform into a giant taller than Mount Buzhou in front of Long Chen. With a giant axe in hand, he unleashed heaven-splitting. That was an incomparably powerful will attack. Presumably, Ji Taishu could feel its power even more than him. Simple, direct, and violent. This was Xing Wuji's Dao. Her rule. The axe blade. Heaven-splitting. What erupted from it was the war god's source power of heaven-splitting. Geoid painting. Facing this move of split the heavens, even though the space of the paradise of deities was being torn apart, Ji Taishu remained unfazed. He waved the stately painting in his hand, causing it to transform into an entire world in front of Ji Taishu. It was a seemingly real world with a powerful devouring force. The heaven-splitting axe and the geoid painting collided. Rumble. The huge impact sent Xing Wuji flying. Of course, Ji Taishu also staggered backward. The geoid painting had withstood the power of the heaven-splitting axe, but the world had also been mostly destroyed. However, when Ji Taishu's geoid painting returned to his hand, the ink painting had turned into a mess of ink. Very quickly, the ink dispersed and reformed into an ink painting. Xing Wuji, you haven't improved at all. Ji Taishu sneered. However, before he could finish speaking, Xing Wuji charged at him like a battle maniac. This time, she didn't use the heaven-splitting axe. Instead, she attacked with the celestial shield. Shroud the heavens. Another battle rule. The celestial shield flew out and landed on top of Ji Taishu's head. Xing Wuji was already standing under the celestial shield. The celestial shield spun at a terrifying speed, covering the sky and trapping Ji Taishu in a world of dead silence and darkness. At the same time, the celestial shield was suppressing him with terrifying power. Xing Wuji's attack was intense and ferocious. Once she started fighting, she wouldn't stop. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Under the suppression of the celestial shield, the ground that Ji Taishu was standing on suddenly exploded and a huge crack appeared. In the battlefield where they were fighting, the gods and demons couldn't get close to them and couldn't affect them. Ji Taishu was about to be crushed into powder. However, of course, he wouldn't be defeated so easily. At this moment, he was using the geoid painting to block the celestial shield and was in a stalemate with Xing Wuji. The battle looked very exciting. Both of them were focused on each other. You ignored me just like that? In the blink of an eye, Long Chen appeared in front of Ji Taishu. Previously, he was slightly further away from the two of them. When the terrifying killing intent of his god-slaying sword descended, Ji Taishu realized that the situation of the battle between the three of them would be that when he and Xing Wuji were in a stalemate, Long Chen would most likely launch a sneak attack. As expected. Fool. Ji Taishu couldn't help but sneer. While fighting with Xing Wuji, the mountain and mountain brush in his right hand finally moved. Xing Wuji drew a huge beast in the air at a terrifying speed. In that instant, the ink beast let out a surging roar and transformed into a real beast in front of Long Chen. Boom! A huge beast appeared in front of Long Chen. 2 wings, black dragon scales, red bloodlines, an extremely violent appearance, ice-cold fangs, blood-red eyes, thick arms and legs, and a stiff whip-like tail. War demon. In that instant, Long Chen was really shocked. He was all too familiar with this huge beast. This was the primeval troll, the war demon that he had devoured into the death realm. Back when he fought with the war demon on the dragon sacrificial continent, there were many casualties. He would never forget the war demon. Ji Taishu actually summoned the war demon. Roar! The war demon didn't recognize him. Therefore, when it appeared, it charged at Long Chen with its Dao of battle. The moment it attacked, it used the undying indestructible palm. Back then, this attack had been a headache. The war demon in front of him was definitely not just at the primordial godly king realm. Boom! Boom! It was all suppression. Long Chen couldn't care less. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He gripped the god of war sword tightly. When the war demon charged at him, he also charged at the war demon. On the god-slaying sword, illusory time was condensed. It became ethereal, but it was incomparably sharp. Sword of time. The sword swept across the war demon's body. Boom! Chapter 2888. A stunning sword. After going through several divine battles, the Sword of Time had been honed by Long Chen to a rather mature stage. When Ji Taishu was fighting with Xueqi, he had summoned the War Devil. However, he did not expect that the War Devil would not be able to stop Long Chen at all. Long Chen's Sword of Time had shocked Ji Taishu for the first time. It caused him to be slightly distracted while fighting with Xueqi. Of course, it also made the Divine Emperors outside look at Long Chen in a different light. Many Divine Emperors then realized that they seemed to have underestimated Long Chen. Based on the speed at which Long Chen killed the War Devil just now, his strength should actually be at the same realm as Ji Taishu and the others. No wonder Long Chen could defeat Tianyi. However, they did not expect that this was just the beginning. Sword of Time, shattering War Devil, Xueqi's attacks were violent. She stood on the spherical heaven shield and stomped on the ground crazily, making earth-shaking sounds. Ji Taishu had been distracted to deal with Long Chen just now. As a result, Xueqi's monstrous strength directly pushed him into the ground. Boom, 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 boom. The surroundings were filled with earth-shaking sounds. At this moment, Long Chen broke through the War Devil and appeared behind Ji Taishu. When Ji Taishu was fighting with Xueqi, it gave Long Chen a very good opportunity. Extermination Dragon Seal. Long Chen's decisiveness caused the first huge change since the start of the battle. At that moment, the demon subduing pagoda was thrown away by Long Chen. The blood-colored formation diagram appeared. The two ancient words extermination were formed by 8 blood-colored divine dragons. Their killing intent soared to the sky and instantly surpassed Xueqi's battle intent. Buzz, feeling this terrifying killing intent, Ji Taishu turned back hurriedly. The mountain and mountain brush stabbed towards Long Chen's direction. However, his reaction was too hasty. The mountain and mountain brush was directly knocked away by Long Chen's demon subduing pagoda. The blood-colored demon subduing pagoda carried the extermination dragon seal and hit Ji Taishu's chest. Bang! Ji Taishu's face instantly turned pale. The extermination dragon seal imprinted on his chest, but it was his primordial spirit that was destroyed. At that moment, Ji Taishu's primordial spirit was severely injured under the violent attack of the extermination dragon seal. He instantly fell from his peak state and was on the verge of death. Most importantly, Xueqi's spherical heaven shield did not hold back at all. When Ji Taishu was severely injured, the spherical heaven shield pressed down and instantly pressed Ji Taishu deep into the soil, turning him into a bloody mess. Rumble! Ji Taishu disappeared from Long Chen's sight and was replaced by Xueqi, who was looking at him coldly. That was a monstrous battle intent. Like a river, like a wave, like a storm, it rushed towards Long Chen. Long Chen naturally guessed that there must be a huge commotion outside. This time, Ji Taishu was severely injured, and most of the credit was because of Long Chen. It was a taboo to underestimate one's opponent. Ji Taishu valued Xueqi very much and wanted to challenge her. Hence, almost 90% of his energy was spent on fighting against Xueqi. Only 10% were paying attention to Long Chen. This was the direct cause of Ji Taishu's defeat. If both sides were 50%, even if he was surrounded by Xueqi and Long Chen, with his capabilities, he would not be so severely injured. He looked down on Long Chen too much. He did not expect Long Chen to be able to kill the War Devil with a single sword and instantly defeat him with the Extermination Dragon Seal. The power of the Extermination Dragon Seal was too strong and too ruthless. It was used for killing. Ji Taishu was still alive because Long Chen did not dare to kill him. Otherwise, Ji Taishu might be a dead man now. In the eyes of the God Emperors, a seasoning of the battle had instantly become the main character. He had killed one of the original main characters and contributed the most strength. Although it was considered a sneak attack, it also proved his capabilities. He was definitely not a seasoning. All the God Kings were stunned at first and then cheered. They were so excited that they did not know how to speak. A heaven-defying performance. Victory or defeat would be decided at the start of the battle. If Ji Taishu was defeated from now on and lost the ability to fight, Long Chen would be qualified to be ranked third on the God King list. The ones who were the most shocked were, of course, the God Emperors of the Great Desolation Monarch Heaven region. Even Divine Emperor Yi did not expect such a situation to happen. They originally wanted to see Ji Taishu challenge the second on the God King list. He was defeated the moment the battle started. Taishu underestimated Long Chen too much? They were God Emperors and naturally understood. In their eyes, Long Chen did not have the ability to kill Ji Taishu in a second. It was only because Ji Taishu focused all his energy on Xing Wuji that led to his defeat at the beginning. This was a problem of mentality. This Long Chen does have the strength to fight against them. They could not help but admit this. Especially that extermination dragon seal. Its killing intent was too fierce. The moment this rule appeared, it shocked all the God Emperors present. Of course, they were unwilling to accept it. However, with the Bliss Divine Emperor and the people from the Heavenly God region present, they could only watch on even if they were unwilling. They came from an eternal world. No matter what, they had to maintain their demeanor. Taishu has escaped. Soon, they heaved a sigh of relief. When the complete heaven shield suppressed him underground, Ji Taishu endured his injuries and broke through the soil to escape. He should not have been able to escape. However, Xing Wuji blocked Long Chen's path, allowing Ji Taishu to escape successfully. Long Chen, don't be too full of yourself. The battle has just begun. You have to hold on against Xing Wuji. Haha, as he escaped. He said this to Long Chen. Ji Taishu escaped while Xing Wuji blocked Long Chen's path. At the critical moment of their battle, Ji Taishu had time to recover. This made the God Emperors of the Great Desolation Monarch Heaven feel a little better. I'll deal with him directly. Then we can decide the winner. Isn't that more direct? Long Chen took a few steps back. Ji Taishu had already escaped with severe injuries. Even if he wanted to catch up, he would not be able to. Now the one in front of him was Xing Wuji, who was filled with battle intent. Xing Wuji stepped on the ground step by step. With the complete heaven shield in her left hand and the heaven-splitting axe in her right, she stared at Long Chen coldly and said in a low voice, "Finally, I want to deal with him personally." I see. She might be a woman, but her heroism was unparalleled. She could obviously deal with Ji Taishu, but she did not want to rely on Long Chen. She meant that now that Ji Taishu could recover, she wanted to take advantage of this time to defeat Long Chen. Now, Long Chen was the only one left in her world. The complete heaven shield and the heaven-splitting axe vibrated and let out a ferocious sound, locking Long Chen in place. The person in front of him did not look like a woman. Instead, she looked like a huge, dreadful beast that could cover the sky. Outside the paradise of the gods, the focus of the gods had become the battle between Xing Wuji and Long Chen. Meanwhile, Ji Taishu was recovering rapidly. No one had expected the battle to turn out like this. This was actually the charm of three people fighting in the paradise of the gods. The more chaotic it was, the harder it was to predict the outcome. Take Ji Taishu for example. He was not weak, but he was almost killed by Long Chen at the beginning of the battle. Ji Taishu lost because he underestimated you. I won't. The first time I saw you, I knew that compared to him, you are more suitable to be my opponent. Although Xing Wuji was a woman, her voice was very low and deep. However, it was precisely because of this that she had a special charm to her. Her looks were actually more delicate and gentle, but her eyes were filled with passion, coldness, and brutality. It was as if beneath her delicate exterior lay the heart of a wild beast. Even her breathing was rough and violent. She did not want to say a single word to Long Chen. Like a wild beast, she rushed towards Long Chen. Her speed was terrifying, and her overflowing battle intent was locked on to Long Chen. Long Chen saw what the pinnacle of the battle Dao was like. Xing Wuji, second on the God King roll. The daughter of the heaven punishing god. Battle versus slaughter. Outside the paradise of the gods, even though many people thought that Xing Wuji would still win, at least they felt that this battle would be exciting. Long Chen would still be able to perform well. The battle was about to begin. Unbounded battle soul. Xing Wuji's delicate pink lips let out a low growl. Her body underwent a huge change. This unbounded battle soul was a battle rule. Under the rule, her body burned with bronze battle flames. Her eyes were the same. This caused her aura to rise. Even the spherical heaven shield and the heaven-splitting axe released streaks of green energy that wrapped around her body. Roar! For a moment, the ground around them started to crack under the unbounded battle soul. She was clearly a delicate woman, but she was like a wild beast. She was destroying this fairyland-like paradise of the gods. Then I'll start a fire. Outside the paradise of the gods, just as Long Chen and Xing Wuji were about to clash, the Bliss Divine Emperor suddenly said something. Under her control, the paradise of the gods underwent an earth-shattering change. First, the 1,000,000 gods and demons disappeared. Following that, the entire world started to crumble. From a complete world, it started to transform. All kinds of terrifying things started to appear in front of Long Chen and Xing Wuji. The ground under their feet started to crumble. Everything in their field of vision turned into a boundless ocean. It was no longer jade-green water. Instead, it was turbid, yellow, and emitted a terrible stench. This was the Withering Heavens water. The Withering Heavens water flooded the entire world. Because of the rule that prohibited flying, the two of them had no choice but to continue to step on the Withering Heavens water. However, the Withering Heavens water was extremely turbulent. It was like the sea under a storm. The waves were so high that they could be sucked into the depths of the ocean at any time. This was the Withering Heavens Sea. Not only that, the soul-devouring wind had also appeared. The entire paradise of the gods was covered in it. This was no longer a gentle breeze. It was a storm that was as sharp as a knife, sweeping through the heavens and earth. Then, Long Chen realized that the entire paradise of the gods had become a land of slaughter. Not only was there the Withering Heavens water and the soul-devouring wind, there was also the yellow spring soil, the death soul fragrance, and dozens of other dangers that Long Chen had never seen before. All these dangers were surrounding the two of them at all times. Xing Wuji and Long Chen had not even started fighting, but the situation was already extremely chaotic. This is crazy. The God Emperors looked at the Bliss Divine Emperor. Their hearts trembled. The Bliss Divine Emperor was always like this. This battle had already made her excited. There was even a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. This was terrifying, however. This did not scare Long Chen. His entire body was surrounded by the flames of life. He was maintaining the stability of his body under all kinds of disasters. It was the same for Xing Wuji. To be able to last in such a harsh battle environment for a long time was also a kind of ability. Chapter 2889. The deadly seawater, the wind that could tear one's divine soul apart, the bewitching fragrance that could make one fall into an eternal sleep, the yellow spring soil that could seal gods and demons, and so on. It was as if all kinds of demons were tearing at them. Long Chen even felt that there was no need to fight. Just this pantheon paradise was enough to torture the two of them to death. They had spent a lot of effort to stabilize themselves here, but their battle strength had also been greatly affected. However, Xing Wuji did not care about her own life. As soon as she stabilized herself, she used the spherical heaven shield to break through the layers of waves and attack. Boom! Boom! Endless waves of the sky wither water rushed up to the clouds. Long Chen used the demon-subduing pagoda to protect himself and force the disaster away. However, the violent seawater still caused him to sway left and right. In such an environment, Xing Wuji seemed to have gone mad as he slashed down with the heaven-splitting axe. Sky-splitting. What's more, it was sky-splitting under the unbounded battle soul. This nomological attack was even stronger than the one she had used against Ji Taishu. She attacked with one hand, and the axe split heaven and earth, tearing the starry sky and the sky wither water apart. That incomparably strong battle intent rushed over like a ferocious beast. These were the rules of the battle. Before the axe even got close to Long Chen, he felt like he was being torn apart. If not for Long Chen's strong physical body, he would have been torn apart by this intense and explosive force before the axe even reached him. This woman is really violent. Long Chen could not help but think that Xing Wuji's man must be a pitiful worm. If he was with her, he would probably be torn apart if he angered her even a little. Heavenly execution. He held the god-slaying sword with both hands and imbued it with the heavenly execution nomological laws. He had to see how strong Xing Wuji was. The power of the heavenly execution and the god-slaying sword's creation divine power burst out at the same time. Long Chen was like a ferocious beast. His heavy sword cut through the sky and in front of everyone's expectant eyes, landed on the blade of the sky-splitting axe. Boom! At that moment, Long Chen felt like he was being attacked by the entire world. His hands exploded into a rain of blood and were almost shattered. His entire body was smashed into the sky wither sea by the sky-splitting axe and smashed deep into the sea. He crashed into the boundary of the Pantheon paradise and almost flattened Long Chen. This girl is so strong. Long Chen was stupefied. The laws of split the heavens weren't strong, but the opponent's strength and divine power were simply too ferocious. In terms of power, it directly suppressed Long Chen, resulting in such a terrifying effect. Of course, his injuries weren't serious. Long Chen had been burning his life force the entire time. After rushing out of the heavenly withering water, the injuries on his hands and body had already recovered. Idiot, he actually dared to fight head-on against the daughter of the Heaven Punisher God? Seems like he really doesn't understand Xueqi. Seeing Long Chen's pitiful state, all the God Emperors thought the same thing. Indeed, as they had expected, Long Chen was defeated by Xueqi's ferocious strength. However, when Long Chen returned in an instant and didn't seem to be injured, they all shut their mouths. In fact, this exchange was considered very balanced. The power of heavenly punishment had also been transmitted into Xueqi's body. It had activated Xueqi's strength and created an angry dragon that was tearing at the opponent's insides. If it wasn't for that, Xueqi would have rushed into the heavenly withering water and continued to fight to the death with Long Chen. She wouldn't have given Long Chen even a second of chance. Break! Xueqi struck her own chest and shattered the power of heavenly punishment that Long Chen had planted in her body. She was injured to a certain extent, but she didn't care. She wiped a drop of blood from the corner of her mouth and looked at Long Chen with an even more fervent, cold and fiery gaze. That intense battle intent had almost broken through the heavens and surpassed the Pantheon paradise. Under Xueqi's intense battle intent, even the disaster that was about to erupt was forced away by her. Again, a low but pleasant voice rang out. The more Long Chen didn't lose, the more excited Xueqi became. Her fervent eyes were the most fervent battle maniac Long Chen had ever seen. She was really born for battle. Explode! This time, it was the Pure Heaven Shield. The Pure Heaven Shield broke through the waves and attacked. For a moment, it covered the sky and covered the sun. This was the move that she had used against Xueqi, Heaven Covering. In an instant, everything turned dark. Boom! Long Chen was trapped in a sealed world by the Pure Heaven Shield. Xueqi was exerting more strength. This made Long Chen really understand how Ji Taishu felt inside. No wonder he was hit by the extermination dragon seal so easily. Under the suppression of this Pure Heaven Shield, he couldn't resist at all. Time rupture. Long Chen's sword slashed on the Pure Heaven Shield. The mystical part of his time law was that it could penetrate through these creation divine weapons and attack Xueqi. This was the power of time rupture. However, Xueqi reacted very quickly and instantly withdrew the Pure Heaven Shield. Her Pure Heaven Shield could block many attacks, but it couldn't block Long Chen's time. However, when the Pure Heaven Shield was withdrawn, Xueqi's attack would start. The Pure Heaven Shield's heaven covering was just a diversion. The moment the Pure Heaven Shield was withdrawn, Xueqi suddenly appeared and slashed with the heaven-splitting axe. Godly head beheading. If the heaven-splitting rule was nothing special, this godly head beheading rule was extremely exquisite and could be considered a heaven-defying rule. What Long Chen didn't know was that godly head beheading was the Heaven Punisher's rule. He was the one who taught Xueqi personally. Using the Pure Heaven Shield to hide this attack was really exquisite. Now that it suddenly appeared, it was like a stroke of genius. As the deities were in an uproar, Xueqi's rule slashed down. This rule wasn't strong in terms of slashing but in terms of willpower and primordial spirit. The most terrifying part was Xueqi's eyes. At that moment, her eyes were like sharp thorns that directly pierced into Long Chen's body and suppressed Long Chen with the fastest and most ferocious speed. Slash! In the eyes of the deities, Long Chen's head was cut off by the giant heaven-splitting axe. It flew out and was instantly swallowed by the heavenly wither sea, vanishing without a trace. Xueqi's godly head beheading was effective. All the deities gasped. Xueqi was indeed Xueqi. This move was too strong. It had indeed crushed Long Chen. However, although the head had been chopped off, it wasn't a serious injury to the gods and demons. They could still recover in the long run, especially Long Chen. Right under Xueqi's nose, his head regrew, perfectly fine. Of course, this was all thanks to the flames of life. Long Chen was becoming more and more proficient in the laws of life. In this aspect, it wasn't easy for others to kill him. If other gods and demons had been beheaded, their recovery would be very slow. Even if they could recover, they would need to expend a lot of their divine power. However, Long Chen had the support of the deity's wishes. This time he was fine. He was just a little distracted. After all, Xueqi was too strong. Sword of Time. Under the shocked gazes of the deities, Xueqi quickly recovered and counterattacked. Once again, he proved his strength. Not only did the laws of life shock the god emperors, but the laws of time also exploded. This was the sword that killed the war devil. At the critical moment, Xueqi used the spherical heaven shield to block Long Chen's attack. Clang! There was a loud explosion. The power of time pierced through the turbid heaven shield. The turbid heaven shield that could block everything might not be able to completely block the time sword. Xueqi had just gained the upper hand when she was cut by the time sword that had pierced through the turbid heaven shield. Dozens of bone-deep wounds appeared on her delicate body. Her snow-white skin was suddenly covered in blood. It was undoubtedly heartbreaking. However, Xueqi's expression didn't change at all. To her, these were just superficial wounds. The spherical heaven shield had blocked most of the power of time. Furthermore, her physical body was extremely tough. The sword of time had pierced through the spherical heaven shield but could only cause this kind of injury. Beheading, sword marks. Both sides had victories and losses. Under the sudden attack of the soul-devouring wind, Long Chen and Xueqi had no choice but to split up temporarily. However, their eyes were still locked onto each other. Long Chen had to admit that this was a rather difficult opponent. This made his battle equally intense. As for Xueqi, there was no need to even mention her. She was so excited that she was about to go crazy. The wounds on her body were covered in blood, but she did not even bother to look at them. Boom! The two charged at each other again. Bang, bang, bang. As they fought, the heavenly withering wind raged. Countless amounts of seawater rushed up to the clouds, drowning the earth and forming an incomparably strong storm. From the situation of the battle, the two were evenly matched. Outside the paradise of gods, everyone looked at each other. They didn't think that such an exciting battle would actually be between Long Chen and Xueqi. It should have been Xueqi and Ji Taishu. Now, no one knew where Ji Taishu was hiding to recuperate. To Ji Taishu himself, this result was really too tragic. However, the deities had to admit that Long Chen's strength was beyond their imagination. To be able to fight with Xueqi to this extent, especially when he was just a young deity with no background, was rare in the 10,000 worlds. Of course, Xueqi's limit was far from this. She was someone who was good at unearthing her own strength in battle. Collapse. This was Xueqi's most terrifying rule so far. Just one word. Just one word explained the crux of this rule. That was collapse. The collapse of battle. Xueqi used two kinds of creation divine weapons to execute collapse at the same time. Its power was terrifying, but it looked rather simple. The spherical heaven shield and the heaven-splitting axe combined and pressed down on Long Chen's head. Everywhere they went, whether it was water or wind, everything disappeared and collapsed into fine powder. The collapse rule was transmitted to Long Chen's head. Long Chen grabbed the demon-subduing pagoda and pushed the extermination dragon seal upwards. The extermination dragon seal and the collapse rule clashed, causing the most terrifying collision. Although the extermination dragon seal did not hit Xueqi directly, it did injure her primordial spirit. Xueqi had no choice but to retreat and almost fell into the heavenly withering sea. At the same time, Long Chen's body was also cracked. His injuries were even worse than when he beheaded the deity. The two stopped for a while to recover. Long Chen couldn't help but take a deep breath. What a formidable opponent. However, as long as he could hold on like this, he would have endless power. Xueqi, on the other hand, did not have the power of will. She would be defeated sooner or later. Just as he had this thought, Xueqi rushed out of the heavenly withering sea. She was not in a hurry to attack Long Chen. Instead, she stood on the stormy sea. At this moment, her eyes were rather strange and listless. It was as if she was in a trance. She started to walk towards Long Chen, faster and faster. At this moment, she smiled strangely. That smile made Long Chen's hair stand on end. Suddenly, She raised the heaven-splitting axe and chopped down on her delicate neck. At this moment, that devastatingly beautiful face was sent flying along with her head. Blood splattered across the chaotic sea. This was beheading, going berserk. Chapter 2890. A devastatingly beautiful woman flew towards him and beheaded him right in front of Long Chen. In an instant, the beauty disappeared. The head flew past Long Chen and smashed into the heavenly wither sea, disappearing without a trace. The heavenly wither water must have corroded it and disappeared. Beheading was insanity transformation, Xueqi's most powerful state. Large amounts of blood spurted out from the severed neck of the woman in front of him. In an instant, the blood spurted out and dyed Xueqi's entire body red. Not a single part of her body was spared. Her entire body was covered in blood, and the boiling blood spread to the heaven-splitting axe and spherical heaven shield, dyeing them completely red as well. Boom! What followed was Xueqi's extremely terrifying aura. The opponent in front of Long Chen suddenly became even more terrifying. Many new powers were born in her body, and the original war god source power that could split the heavens and earth changed rapidly, reaching an even more frenzied and boiling level. Her destructive power was even more terrifying. If one had to add a word to this power, it would be destruction. Xueqi in his state of destruction. A delicate woman was covered in blood and had lost her head. She waved her axe and shield, exploding with blood chi. Although she had no eyes, 2 beams of divine light shot out from her body, as if they were eyes. Her navel let out a deafening roar, as if it had turned into a mouth. This was a war goddess who was on the verge of exploding. After the insanity transformation, her attacks were even more ferocious and terrifying. Previously, she was already somewhat suppressing Long Chen. If she used her strongest state, she would be even more brutal. Outside the paradise of the gods stared at this scene in shock. Almost all the godly kings had never seen the legendary heaven punishers beheading insanity transformation, and their shock was no less than Long Chen's. When they saw Xueqi like this, they could not help but worry for Long Chen. How could he deal with such an opponent? Her petite body was like an ancient beast. Split the heavens. Encompassing the heavens. This time, blood light shot into the sky as Xueqi attacked. The power of the art of split the heavens completely surpassed that of the last time, and this time, split the heavens and shrouding the heavens were used at the same time. As the fortune divine treasure shook, the heavenly withered sea exploded. Endless seawater surged into the surroundings, forming a deep whirlpool at their location. However, Long Chen was not intimidated. As Xueqi grew stronger, so did his fighting spirit. When the rules of battle clashed with the rules of slaughter, Long Chen had reached his most perfect state of slaughter. His body was covered in blood-red dragon scales, and he was like a battle machine. He could control time, and with his ability to reverse time, he calmly faced the rampaging Xueqi. Only by mastering all the rules and using them to their fullest potential would one be able to display extraordinary battle prowess. In Xueqi's current state, Long Chen would definitely lose if he were to fight her head-on. Therefore, he wanted to combine time, slaughter, fate, life, and karma together. Chaotic time reversal. Time reversal. Death Realm Dragon Gate. Source of life. Wave after wave of rules shot out. Although Long Chen looked like he was being suppressed by the berserk Xueqi, he was actually unharmed. He looked battered, but he had already figured out the nature of Xueqi's current state. She was berserk, but she had also lost her rationality. In her world, there was only one word: battle. Heavenly Eye of Destiny. Heart's Eye of Desire. Long Chen used these 2 rules of fate at the same time. Now that he was very close to Xueqi, his eyes suddenly changed. The Heavenly Eye of Destiny suppressed Xueqi's blood chi, and the Heart's Eye of Desire successfully bewitched her. Of course, this was not easy. After all, the opponent's spiritual will was very strong. Sword of Time. He had done so much coordination, all for the sake of unleashing this sword. This was the only time Xueqi had been suppressed by Long Chen during the continuous slaughter. At that moment, Long Chen had counterattacked, and the Sword of Time had transformed into a bright streak of light that had slashed towards Xueqi. It had been like a dream. However, Xueqi finally broke free from the rules of fate and used the celestial globe shield to block the Sword of Time. Just like before, The Sword of Time once again left a few bloody marks on Xing Wuji's body. His body was stained with more blood, but it also ignited Xing Wuji's anger. Die! With a low roar, a huge wave came crashing down. Xing Wuji's current aura had accumulated to a point that shocked the God Emperors. However, everyone was more surprised by Long Chen. Under Xing Wuji's current state, he was still undefeated and unharmed. He even had enough fighting strength. It was indeed shocking. Don't be fooled by Long Chen's current state. He is actually at the end of his rope. Wuji's boundless battle soul grows stronger as he fights. The further he fights, the stronger it gets. Long Chen has not been hit yet. As long as Wuji defeats him once, there is no hope for him to turn the tables. Yes, in this state, Wuji's strength has already surpassed Long Chen's by a fold. She is even close to a perfect God Emperor. The God Emperors of the heaven punishing war god Star discussed. The tens of thousands of God Kings could not understand the current state of the battle, but they were also worried. After all, from below, Long Chen rarely had a chance to counterattack. He was always being suppressed by Xing Wuji. Godly head decapitation. The heaven-splitting axe came crashing down. There was no way to block it. This rule seemed to be asking Long Chen to stretch out his arm to be cut off. Kacha! Long Chen used the god-slaying sword to block it, but he was also forced back a great distance. He instantly turned into stars and disappeared before Xing Wuji's eyes. Xing Wuji turned into a beam of bloodlight and instantly caught up with Long Chen. He attacked again. Collapse. The heaven-splitting axe and celestial shield were used at the same time. Collapse rule. This move was Long Chen's doomsday. At least that was what it looked like on the outside. However, Long Chen was actually very calm. He was no longer the person he was when he challenged Tian Yi. When Xing Wuji attacked him with the collapse rule, he suddenly turned into an illusory void dragon. Sword of Time. This time, he directly used the void dragon's tail to perform the Sword of Time. This was actually the most basic Sword of Time. It was the void dragon's own attack. At this moment, time gathered on Long Chen's dragon tail. It was no longer a dragon tail, but a huge sword. When Xing Wuji attacked, Long Chen suddenly turned around. This sword collided with Xing Wuji's heaven-splitting axe and celestial shield. This Sword of Time was so amazing that it made the God Emperors look at Long Chen in a different light. In their eyes, this Sword of Time was incomparably beautiful. It instantly pierced through the celestial shield. However, the celestial shield could not block the power of time. Therefore, in that instant, the sword pierced through the celestial shield and Xing Wuji's God of War's body. Pa! Although it was a woman, Long Chen could not show mercy. If he showed mercy, he would definitely lose. The collapse rules also caused his body to disintegrate, and he was almost destroyed in both body and spirit. Every time they exchanged blows, both sides would be injured. In fact, Long Chen did not gain much advantage. After all, Xing Wuji was a goddess, the daughter of the Heaven Punisher. He was not to be trifled with. He actually blocked it. Seeing that Long Chen actually blocked Xing Wuji's attack again, the God Emperors began to feel uneasy. If this continued, they could still defeat Long Chen. However, after such a long time, it was obvious that in terms of evaluation, Long Chen would definitely surpass Ji Taishu. Was Ji Taishu going to drop to 4th place on the God King list? The longer the battle went on, the more nervous everyone was. Next, Xing Wuji was like a ferocious beast. He fought with Long Chen in this Pantheon paradise. No matter how ferocious his opponent's attacks were, Long Chen blocked them all. He even managed to counterattack. Actually, Long Chen's fighting style was very simple. Although she was in berserk mode, her energy consumption was even faster. When fighting with such an opponent, all she had to do was avoid them. This continued until Xing Wuji started to show signs of fatigue. Even she herself was depressed, afraid, and dispirited. That was Long Chen's chance. In the midst of the chase, Xing Wuji suddenly stopped. She stared at Long Chen like two blood-red eyes. Suddenly, she put away the celestial shield and held the heaven-splitting axe with both hands. The boiling blood-red light around her surged towards the heaven-splitting axe. The heaven-splitting axe shone brightly. Wuji is going to end the battle. The God Emperor saw this and knew what Xing Wuji was going to do. Long Chen thought of a rule. This was actually a terrifying rule of the Heaven Punisher. Among all his children, Only Xing Wuji had comprehended it. It was said that this was Xing Wuji's ultimate move. It consumed a lot of energy, and Xing Wuji would immediately be forced out of berserk mode. Therefore, under normal circumstances, Xing Wuji would not use it. But at this moment, her speed was incomparably fast, and her entire body was covered in blood-red light. Boom! Suddenly, a giant appeared behind Xing Wuji. A giant without a head. The giant's might was vast and mighty, thousands of times stronger than Xing Wuji's. This terrifying might burst forth in an instant. It's over. Seeing the giant figure, the god emperors breathed a sigh of relief. But it had to be said that this battle had been spectacular. If Long Chen had become third on the God King list, that would be his strength. Everyone would be impressed. At this moment, Xing Wuji exploded. Xing Tian, rage cleaves the heavens. At this moment, the heavens and earth reverberated with these 6 words. It was deafening. The figure behind Xing Wuji rushed forward with her. Every step she took made the entire Pantheon paradise tremble. Amidst the blurriness, Long Chen saw Xing Wuji's eyes. This rule contained the most intense unyielding, proud, and angry. It was an eruption that had been suppressed for the longest time. The more it was suppressed, the stronger it became. Hence, rage cleaves the heavens. Heaven-splitting axe, 1 slash. This slash could split the heavens and earth. This slash could bring down the heavenly Tao. In Xing Wuji's eyes, Long Chen was the heavenly Tao. But he wasn't. Under the assault of this powerful will, Long Chen closed his eyes. In this chaotic moment, he was unprecedentedly calm. His body transformed into the primordial blood spirit dragon. In his eyes, this was a world of blood, and Xing Wuji was an ant beneath his feet. This is probably the true meaning of the Annihilation Dragon Seal. In that instant, the word Annihilation appeared in his dragon palm. Xing Tian's rage cleaves the heavens and Annihilation Dragon Seal. Clash! In that instant, Long Chen's entire arm was sent flying. However, the Annihilation Dragon Seal landed on Xing Wuji's chest. Xing Wuji fell into the heavenly Wither Sea, and the heaven-splitting axe fell from his hand. As for Long Chen, he returned to his human form. His arm was regenerating under the flames of life. End of January. The students were on vacation. Crazy Wu had some free time recently, so he planned to organize 2 activities to liven things up. To be more specific, they were explosive updates and gift giving. First, his WeChat account currently has 90,000 followers. Previously, he had said that he would release 10 chapters when he reached 100,000. However, he hadn't done much publicity recently, so he didn't increase it. Now, he decided that for every 2,000 followers he gained, he would release 1 chapter. When it reached 100,000, he would release 5 more chapters. I hope that my readers will follow my WeChat account. Feng Qingyang. Just search for me on WeChat. Let's work together. There will be a lucky draw at the end of the month. Those who follow me can participate. The prize is a peripheral product and a physical book. Chapter 2891. This time, the Extermination Dragon Seal had struck Xing Wuji's core of laws and imprinted itself on his Yuan spirit, causing Xing Wuji's body and soul to be almost destroyed. He was killed by Long Chen on the spot. Fortunately, Xing Wuji's Yuan spirit was also quite strong. But now that he was locked onto by the Extermination Dragon Seal, Xing Wuji wouldn't be able to recover without Long Chen's help. What a terrifying woman. Although she had only severed Long Chen's arm, the power of the sky punishing raging slash the heavens and the opponent's war god source force had penetrated Long Chen's body. Inside Long Chen's body, the flames of life were sweeping everywhere, repairing his damaged body. At the same time, his mixed origin divine power was devouring Xing Wuji's remaining energy. Xing Wuji was unconscious, so it was easier for Long Chen to expel him. He was fine. The outcome of this battle of life and death seemed to have been decided. However, this was an outcome that neither the god monarchs nor the god emperors had expected. Xing Wuji had been defeated and thrown into the heavenly Wither Sea. His body was rapidly turning yellow and withered under the corrosion of the heavenly Wither Sea. His beautiful face would soon turn into white bones. Long Chen took some time to recover before opening his eyes. Originally, when Ji Taishu was besieged and escaped, the The god emperors of the great desolation monarch heaven were depressed enough. But now, the most depressed one was Xingtian war god star. Because Xing Wuji, who was ranked second on the godly king list, had been defeated by Long Chen. A head-on battle. This meant something completely different. Before the Battle of the Pantheon Paradise started, everyone had been focused on Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu. Who would care about Long Chen? But now, who would dare to ignore Long Chen? Even the existences of the god realm of Absolute Beginning gasped in shock. Before they could even react, Xing Wuji was being destroyed by the heavenly wither water. While they were suffocating, Long Chen rushed into the heavenly wither water and found Xing Wuji. Xing Wuji had completely lost consciousness. Long Chen's flames of life landed on her body and enveloped her. This woman had no quarrel with him, so Long Chen naturally wouldn't kill her. Moreover, she was of noble status, 100 times more terrifying than Di Yao. Exterminating Dragon Seal. By then, Xing Wuji had already lost her berserk state. Her beautiful head and face had reappeared. Long Chen found the exterminating dragon seal on her chest. It was his own power. He extended his hand and erased the exterminating dragon seal. Then, he brought Xing Wuji out of the withering water. He held Xing Wuji's slender waist with one hand. Her elasticity was terrifying. She looked weak, but in terms of physical strength, she surpassed Long Chen. After coming out, Xing Wuji's flames of life and the extermination dragon seal were wiped away. She gradually regained consciousness, but it was still very difficult for her to recover to the point where she could fight. The outcome was clear. Just as she was in a daze, she heard Long Chen's voice. "Dear God Emperors, the outcome of my battle with Xing Wuji is clear. Now that she has lost the ability to fight, please bring her to the Pantheon Paradise to heal." "I lost." Xing Wuji opened her eyes. She wasn't very clear-headed. In truth, she couldn't remember her state after the decapitation berserk transformation very clearly, but it seemed like she had really lost. Xing Wuji inspected his own body. Her primordial spirit had been destroyed, and she was injured. Her strength was almost spent as well. In this state, she definitely had no ability to fight. She left Long Chen and stood on the heavenly wither water. She shook her head and looked at Long Chen deeply. She said, "That's right, I lost. I will withdraw from this battle now." She was a straightforward person, and she didn't like to beat around the bush. This was something that even Xing Wuji himself had admitted. Even the sky-reaching divine emperor of the heaven-punishing war god planet could not change this fact. Everyone felt like they were in a dream until the blissful celestial emperor brought Xing Wuji out. Xing Wuji returned to the sky-piercing celestial emperor's team. She didn't say anything, but her eyes were still deep as she recovered and watched Long Chen's battle. Wuji. The sky-piercing celestial emperor was worried about her. After all, it was a humiliation for her to lose to a nobody. Victory and defeat are common in battles, so it's not surprising at all. I can indeed learn from him. I admire him. Falling to the third place on the God King board isn't a big deal. Becoming a God Emperor is the right path, Xing Wuji said calmly. I'm relieved that you can think this way. Not bad, we've all underestimated this child. The sky-piercing celestial emperor sucked in a deep breath. Truth be told, before Xing Wuji spoke, he still had the intention to punish Long Chen. But after hearing Xing Wuji's words, he knew that his previous thoughts weren't appropriate. There was a winner and a loser in a battle. The key wasn't victory or defeat, but who grew. But the battle wasn't over yet. Long Chen and Ji Taishu were still alive. Moreover, Ji Taishu had taken advantage of this period of time to hide in the shadows and resist the power of the extermination dragon seal. With his strength, and with Long Chen not hitting him head-on, he had recovered quite a bit. He still had a large portion of his battle strength. Just like that, the Pantheon Paradise became the final battle between Long Chen and Ji Taishu. Originally, Xing Wuji wanted to defeat Long Chen and then deal with Ji Taishu. Now, it was Long Chen's turn. Before the gods could react to Xing Wuji's matter, they saw Long Chen breaking through the 1,000-layered waves and charging towards Ji Taishu's hiding spot. It felt like an eagle trying to catch a chick. Ji Taishu definitely didn't expect that he would be pursued. He actually knows Ji Taishu's location. Ji Taishu escaped, he might not have fully recovered yet. All the god kings could only stare with their mouths agape. Long Chen, who was originally just a seasoning, not only defeated Xing Wuji head-on, he was also chasing after Ji Taishu. Moreover, Ji Taishu was still fleeing, looking extremely pathetic. After the battle between Long Chen and Xing Wuji, the High Bliss Celestial Emperor suddenly changed the state of the Pantheon Paradise. The chaotic paradise returned to a peaceful paradise. With this, Long Chen seemed to be able to lock onto Ji Taishu's location even more easily. At this moment, Long Chen broke through the layers of strong winds and crossed the rivers, chasing after Ji Taishu. Want to escape? How is that possible? Ji Taishu was struck by his extermination dragon seal, and Long Chen was relying on the extermination dragon seal to chase after him. If Ji Taishu wanted to escape from Long Chen, he had to completely break free from the extermination dragon seal. As the son of a hierarch, do you only know how to run from me, Long Chen? Long Chen's voice echoed throughout the paradise of Pantheon. Ji Taishu was an extremely arrogant person. The more he was provoked, the more he would not be able to take it. But after witnessing the battle between Long Chen and Xing Wuji, Ji Taishu knew how terrifying Long Chen was. If he was at his peak condition, he would definitely fight Long Chen head-on. But now that he was injured, he did not have the confidence to do so. Hence, he could only run away to recover as soon as possible. Although it was embarrassing, if he was defeated directly, it would be even more embarrassing. If I'm defeated directly, I'll be ranked 4th on the God King board. Xing Wuji fell from the 3rd place, and this nameless nobody will be able to become the 2nd place, suppressing me? Ji Taishu could not bear it. Run. Recover quickly. Defeat him. This was Ji Taishu's plan, so he did not stop no matter what Long Chen said. He turned a deaf ear to it. He knew that everyone outside the paradise of Pantheon was watching the show of a chase. The God Kings knew that it was very likely for Long Chen to achieve a complete victory, so they all became excited and cheered for Long Chen. As for the divine kings from the Great Desolation Emperor's heaven, their expressions were extremely ugly. It was indeed rather embarrassing for the son of a hierarch to be chased like this. However, they did not find it to be a problem. Ji Taishu needed a fair battle. What's that place? A circular lake? Very soon, someone noticed where Ji Taishu was heading. This was the first time the God Kings had seen the paradise of Pantheon, so they obviously did not know what the circular lake was. However, the divine kings had roughly heard of it. That's a Yang formation. The Dark Star Divine King was alarmed. Actually, Long Chen was even faster than Ji Taishu right now. He had used the Dragon Seal of Annihilation to lock onto Ji Taishu. If this continued, he would catch up eventually. Perhaps Ji Taishu had already sensed this. As a result, the direction he was heading towards was actually the Yang formation. When Long Chen entered the paradise of Pantheon, the Dark Star Divine King had told him not to enter the Yin formation or Yang formation. In the beginning, Long Chen had remembered the 2 rough locations, so he did not go there. However, after the entire paradise of Pantheon had been reduced to the land of chaos, Long Chen had basically lost his sense of direction. Now that he was chasing after Ji Taishu, it became even more difficult for him to grasp the direction of the Yin formation and Yang formation. However, Ji Taishu knew. He was more familiar with the paradise of Pantheon than Long Chen. He had even fought here in the past. The Yang formation is right up ahead. Just as the Dark Star Divine King was panicking, but there was nothing he could do, Ji Taishu passed through a group of mountains. In a beautiful valley, a clear, mirror-like lake appeared. The lake was circular, an extremely regular circle. Mist rose up from the surface of the lake, making it extremely enchanting. It was a beautiful sight. Ji Taishu suddenly stopped there and sneered before looking back in the direction that Long Chen had come from. He murmured, "Becoming 2nd on the God King ranking isn't that easy." Boom! Amidst the nervous crowd, Long Chen burst through the mountains and suddenly appeared before Ji Taishu. A fierce gust of wind surged towards Ji Taishu, forcing him back a few steps. Ji Taishu's complexion was somewhat pale. In front of Long Chen's blood-red dragon scales and ice-cold eyes, he appeared exceptionally frail. He smiled faintly and said, "You're really fast. Since I can't shake you off, let's have a grand battle right here and now." It's not that exaggerated. Long Chen stared at Ji Taishu. He did not pay much attention to the circular lake behind him. Obviously, he had no idea that the Dark Star Divine Emperor had already become extremely frantic outside. However, the Dark Star Divine Emperor had been glared at by Emperor Yi, So there was nothing he could do. Brush of rivers and mountains. Atlas. Ji Taishu gripped the atlas in one hand and the brush of rivers and mountains in the other. With these two Tao artifacts, his bearing rose. Even if he still had the dragon seal of annihilation, he was ready to contend against Long Chen. Chapter 2892. A sword burst forth. The demon-subduing pagoda was still out, and the god-slaying sword alone. The blood-colored sword light suddenly changed, and the surrounding time converged to form a stunning sword. This sword seemed formless, and Long Chen turned into a blood-colored shadow that instantly appeared before Ji Taishu. Grand Atlas of the stately lands. Ji Taishu was very calm. He unfurled the atlas of the stately lands, and a huge portrait of the world appeared in front of Long Chen, blocking Long Chen's path. But Ji Taishu was still in a weakened state. He used the atlas of the stately lands, and although his divine power surged and the world seemed real, it was not as good as when he had first fought Xueqi. Long Chen's sword of time was even more ferocious. This sword transcended time, descending from the heavens and slashing down on the atlas of the stately lands. This feeling was like slashing cotton. It was very soft, and it completely blocked Long Chen's mixed divine power. But the rules of time could not be blocked. The strongest part of the sword of time still pierced through the atlas of the stately lands and stabbed into Ji Taishu's body. It instantly pierced through his lower abdomen, and almost broke his heart of laws. Ji Taishu cried out in pain as he flew backward and fell to the ground. Not only did Ji Taishu have to suppress the power of the extermination dragon seal, but he also had to suppress the sword of time. Instantly, he was in grave danger. Clearly, he was completely defeated, and no longer a match for Long Chen. One move and he fell to the ground. Long Chen's strength once again made the God Emperors aware. No matter the result, they would still be shocked by Long Chen's strength today. Clearly, Xueqi and Ji Taishu were no match for him. He was ranked second on the God King list. But with the Yang Array here, things seemed to be different. The Yang Array's true name was the Extreme Bliss Array Diagram. As for the Yin Array, it was the Extreme Sorrow Array Diagram. Extreme joy begets sorrow. These were the two extremes of the paradise of the gods. They were the strongest parts of the Bliss Divine Emperor. The reason why she was called the Bliss Divine Emperor was because of this Extreme Bliss Array Diagram. At this moment, the blissful God Emperor's eyes were fixed on the scene, not interfering in the slightest. At this moment, Long Chen pushed Ji Taishu back with a single sword strike and advanced once again. This time, his goal was naturally to completely defeat Ji Taishu and end this battle. Therefore, he was already holding the demon-subduing pagoda in his hand. He was ready. They advanced with great momentum. In a flash, Long Chen appeared in front of Ji Taishu. The demon suppression pagoda was about to be activated. Ji Taishu burst out laughing. Die! At the same time, a ferocious force slammed into Long Chen from behind. Clearly, something had been hiding behind Long Chen for a long time. It was just that Long Chen had never noticed it. Woo woo mo. When the giant beast made its move, Long Chen finally realized that Ji Taishu had already summoned the nameless devil to wait for him here. It was only now that he made his move. Swish! In that critical moment, Long Chen was forced to change the direction of the dragon seal of annihilation, colliding with the blurry nameless devil. With the power of the dragon seal of annihilation, the nameless devil was instantly defeated. With a pained cry, it was wiped out. Of course, Ji Taishu managed to avoid a disaster because of this. However, this was actually an attack that the nameless devil had been charging up for a very long time. The force still sent Long Chen flying. Originally, Ji Taishu was right on the edge of the Extreme Bliss Array Diagram. When the nameless devil charged into Long Chen, it passed him instantly. Without any hesitation, under the Dark Star Divine Emperor's most helpless gaze, he crashed into the Extreme Bliss Array Diagram. Afterwards, Long Chen vanished. Blood sprayed from Ji Taishu's mouth, but he could not help but laugh aloud. He crawled up from the ground and grinned from ear to ear. Fool, you're not familiar with the paradise of the gods, yet you're still chasing me here. If you want to crush me, Ji Taishu, you'll have to ask yourself whether you have the right or not. If you hadn't ambushed me in the beginning, would you still be chasing me? He had actually been hunted down by Long Chen. This was basically the greatest humiliation he could muster. But in the end, Long Chen had still fallen for his trap. The nameless devil he had hidden had directly crashed into the extreme bliss array diagram. Of course he knew how terrifying the blissful formation was. Without the blissful divine emperor's permission, Long Chen wouldn't be able to come out. The biggest possibility was that Long Chen would lose himself within the formation, and his soul would be destroyed. A dead person obviously would not be able to snatch away the second place on the God King ranking that Ji Taishu wanted. He had to thank the extreme bliss array diagram, or he would not have the opportunity to turn things around. Outside the paradise of the gods, the several tens of thousand God Kings watched as Long Chen vanished. They were all stunned. None of them knew about the extreme bliss array diagram. They all looked at the bliss divine emperor in confusion. Long Chen was about to achieve complete victory. What was going on? To the other side, the God Kings of the Great Desolation Emperor's heaven could not help but laugh. This was obviously an outcome that they wanted to see. Many God Kings turned to the Dark Star Divine Emperor for help. The Dark Star Divine Emperor could not help but ask, "Bliss Divine Emperor, it's only a three-way battle. Yet Ji Taishu has used Long Chen's unfamiliarity with the paradise of the gods to lure him into the Yang formation. That way, even if Long Chen dies, it'll have nothing to do with Ji Taishu. This doesn't conform to the rules of the God King ranking, does it?" Reaching there, he turned to the God Kings of the gods and said, "My friends, it's actually quite obvious who's stronger and who's weaker now. There's no need for Long Chen to suffer in the Yang formation anymore. If he can't emerge from the Yang formation, wouldn't our Heaven Region Alliance lose a future genius god?" His status was not particularly high either, so he could only plead with them. However, the Bliss Divine Emperor cut him off very soon. The Bliss Divine Emperor said, "1,000,000 demonic gods, various natural disasters, the rules of flight, and the Yin formation and the Yang formation are all a part of the paradise of the gods. The rule we set earlier was that the battle would take place in the paradise of the gods. The Yin formation and the Yang formation are also a part of it. If he enters the Yang formation, then it's his luck. If he can't emerge, then it's his fate. I only care about the outcome, not the process." The Bliss Divine Emperor had her own reasons for saying that. Strength was everything. The Dark Star Divine Emperor was alone, so he could not save Long Chen. In particular, after the Bliss Divine Emperor said that, he could only shut his mouth no matter how anxious he was. Only then did the God Kings understand that, as it turned out, Long Chen had been lured into a terrifying formation diagram. "I originally thought he could defeat Ji Taishu and end the battle. Now that he's been lured into the formation diagram, and Ji Taishu is currently recovering, even if he emerges, he'll definitely be heavily injured, and it's possible that he won't be able to emerge at all. Does that really count as Ji Taishu defeating Long Chen? I don't think so. Although the environment has an influence, the final evaluation is still based on battle performance. I think Ji Taishu wants to kill Long Chen. Long Chen's performance has been so stunning. If nothing goes wrong, he'll rank second on the God King ranking. If Ji Taishu doesn't want to drop to fourth, the only way is to use the Yang formation to kill Long Chen." That's right. That was exactly what Ji Taishu was thinking. He's overestimating himself. The outcome had yet to be determined, and the battle was not over either. Ji Taishu sat down before the Yang formation and began to disperse the power of time and the power of the Dragon Seal of Annihilation. He only needed enough time to recover. Even if Long Chen made it out, even if he emerged unscathed, he would not be afraid even if that was the worst-case scenario. As a result, the God Kings could only continue watching and waiting. Their eyes were glued to the lake at all times, afraid of missing something. Ji Taishu was no different. As his strength recovered, his confidence became greater and greater. He had been heavily injured from a sneak attack right at the start of the battle. How humiliating was that? Fortunately, the tables had turned, or he would have been utterly humiliated. Long Chen was born in the Great Chen Sacred Dynasty. He was the legitimate son of the current Supreme Saint Emperor. On the day he was born, he was conferred the title of Crown Prince by the Saint Emperor. He was about to inherit the throne and rule the world. The Great Chen Sacred Dynasty was in its golden age. Talented people were everywhere. The country was prosperous and peaceful. It was rich in resources. The people lived and worked in peace. Its territory was vast. The surrounding small countries all regarded it as the supreme kingdom, and bowed down to the Saint Emperor. Outside the Great Chen Sacred Dynasty was a barren land. The Saint Emperor was the person with the highest status in the world. He held great power and troops. His might shook the world. He was a revered person. But he doted on Long Chen very much. From a young age, he taught Long Chen astronomy, geography, military strategy, and martial arts. Although Long Chen was young, he was a genius. At the age of 10, he became the #1 martial artist in the world. No one could match him. After he became an adult, he was even better at military strategy. The world respected and loved him when his name was mentioned. His growth was smooth and harmonious. He was loved by his elders and respected and worshipped by his younger siblings. After he came of age, he met Lingxi, the princess of a neighboring country, and married her as his concubine. They gave birth to several children, and he also had sworn brothers Mo Xiaolang and Little Cat. They were loyal and devoted, and they once roamed the world with Long Chen. They fought side by side and lived and died together. He also had many friends. They were all happy. In the past 20 years, Long Chen's life had been smooth. He was loved by his elders, loved by his brothers, loved by his wife, and had cute and lively children. He was respected by everyone. His reputation spread throughout the great Qian sacred dynasty. He was respected and envied by everyone. No matter where he went, people would greet him with a smile. Even he didn't understand why he was so lucky in this life. During the day, he assisted his father in ruling the country and was supported by the officials. He often traveled the pugilistic world with his brothers to help the weak. At night, his wife was virtuous and his children were adorable. It was a happy and harmonious life. Long Chen loved everyone around him deeply. He couldn't bear to part with all of this. He swore that he would let everyone he protected live a carefree and happy life. What he wanted was for the people to live and work in peace and contentment. He was like a lucky person favored by the heavens. Everything went according to his wishes. No matter what he wanted, he would get it. In this entire world, he was already the most respected person. These years could be said to be the happiest. The happiness of his elders, the happiness of his love, the happiness of his brothers, the happiness of his children, and the happiness of the people. When he was 25 years old, his father decided to abdicate and pass the position of sacred emperor to Long Chen, letting Long Chen rule the great Qian sacred dynasty. Long Chen was already prepared to take on this responsibility so that his father, who had been working hard for a long time, could rest. On this day, Long Chen ascended to the throne. The people cheered and the officials bowed. But on this day, a person descended from the sky and appeared in front of Long Chen. Long Chen vaguely remembered that he seemed to have seen this person before. Repeat. At the end of January. The students were on vacation. Lunatic had some time recently, so he planned to do 2 activities to liven things up. Specifically, they were breaking chapters plus giving gifts. First, his WeChat account had 90,000 followers. Previously, he said that he would break 10 chapters when he reached 100,000, but he didn't do much publicity recently. Now, he decided to break 1 chapter for every 2,000 followers he gained. When it reached 100,000, he would break 5 more chapters. He hoped that the readers would follow his WeChat account, Feng Qingyang. Just search on WeChat. Let's work together. There will be a lucky draw at the end of the month. Followers can participate. The prize is a peripheral product and a physical book. Second, at the end of this year's Dragon Blood, 2015, a new book will follow. There won't be a day of rest. This will be a rebirth, correcting many of the shortcomings of Dragon Blood. After pondering for a long time, there will be a huge surprise. The name of the main character hasn't been decided yet. Everyone can add Lunatic's WeChat account, Feng Qingyang, and then send the name you think of to me. Who knows, this might be the main character of the next book. All the participating students have a chance to receive a Dragon Blood t-shirt, Dragon Blood Xiaomi power supply, and a signed physical book. Chapter 2893. That person floated in the air like an immortal. Instantly, tens of thousands of people knelt on the ground and shouted, "Heavenly Immortal!" Long Chen had never seen anyone who could fly in the air. He had only read about it in ancient texts. He guessed that this person's face was gloomy, so he was definitely not a god. He already had a bad premonition. That person held a landscape painting in his left hand and a brush in his right. The brush was stained with blood and looked extremely ferocious. At that moment, That person casually waved his hand. Long Chen's father, the old sacred emperor, was actually attracted by it. He rushed into the clouds and finally stopped in front of that person. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, that person used that brush to pierce through the old sacred emperor's forehead. The old sacred emperor howled miserably and lost his breath. He fell from the sky and became a pile of mush. The great Chen dynasty had seen it all with their own eyes. Long Chen's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, but he could not move. That person was really like a god. He only needed to look at Long Chen and he could make Long Chen unable to move. He had seen his father brutally killed with his own eyes. His heart was bleeding. 25 years of luck had been destroyed at this moment. Extreme joy turned to sorrow. Your 25 years of bliss should be enough. In the next 25 days, I will appear before you every day and bring you to kill someone close to you. 25 days later, I will destroy all life in the great Chen dynasty, and blood will flow like rivers. Why? Long Chen could not resist and asked as if he was being torn apart. That person smiled strangely and said, "There's no why, this is your fates." Fate. With that person vanished into thin air. That day, the great Chen dynasty was in chaos. Everyone fled, but the world was only so big. No one could escape. Anyone who crossed the border would die on the spot. The old sacred emperor's death shocked the world. That person's words brought the most terrifying torment. Long Chen was not defeated by his father's death. He protected everyone that night and brought them to different parts of the country to hide in mystic realms. At the same time, he gathered all the martial experts in the country to meet that person in the imperial city and fight to the death. At noon the next day, amidst the nervous crowd, that person really did come. He was carrying a person in his hand. It was Long Chen's mother, Yang Yu. Yang Yu are panicking, frightened, and crying for help. "Damn it, kill him for me." Long Chen immediately commanded the martial artists of the world. He did not expect that person to be able to find Yang Yu after hiding so deeply. He did not expect that person to kill all the warriors on the spot with just a puff of air. This time, it was even more shocking. Not only Long Chen, but the entire great Chen dynasty was living in a nightmare. That person killed Yang Yu right in front of Long Chen. The moment he saw his mother die, Long Chen felt like he was struck by lightning. His heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, and the pain was indescribable. The luck he had accumulated over the past 25 years instantly collapsed and disappeared without a trace. However, this was only the beginning. "Why? This is your fate." That person laughed loudly and left. No pain could compare to the pain in one's heart. This kind of pain was enough to destroy one's soul, to kill one's heart, and to kill one's heart. The torment of the heart was even more terrifying than directly killing Long Chen. Long Chen wanted to commit suicide. That person was targeting him, and he could not bear to see the people around him die one by one. However, he endured it. That person was too strong, but he was still thinking of a way. On the third day, he watched Kitten being torn to pieces by that person. He loved to play around, but at this moment, he was in so much pain that his heart was torn apart. Long Chen knelt on the ground, in so much pain that he found it hard to breathe. When that person attacked, he could not move. He finally understood that this was fate. From now on, he couldn't do anything but watch as Long Chen killed the people around him. He killed those who were the most precious to him. Every one of them was as important as Long Chen's life. This is your fate. Just watch in peace. Every time, that person would leave with a smile. The world was in chaos. A large number of people committed suicide, and a large number of people wept. The prosperous great Chen dynasty became a living hell. Long Chen frantically hid his loved ones, but no matter where he hid, it was useless. Each and every one of his children were his most beloved treasures. Long Chen had watched them being born and growing up. He had enjoyed them clinging to him and calling him daddy. But in the hands of that person, those adorable treasures had all become ice-cold corpses. That day, Yang Lingqing was killed. That day, Sui Yan died. Then, Mo Xiaolang was also dismembered in front of Long Chen. Long Chen could never forget that unwilling look in his eyes. Every time, his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, but he was powerless to resist. Every day was a fatal wound. Long Chen did not understand why he was still alive, and why he could still endure it. In the end, Li Xuanji was also snatched away from his arms, killed by that person. She fell limp in Long Chen's arms and died. She did not even have the chance to bid farewell to Long Chen before she disappeared from Long Chen's life forever. This is your fate. Do you understand now? Your 25 years of extreme happiness was paid in 25 days of sorrow. You've made a profit. Don't worry, I will kill everything you have, but I will never kill you. You will be the only one left alive, and you will live forever. Even death will be difficult. Long Chen understood that this was a trap. For 25 years, he had fallen deeply in love with these people and this world. But now, everything was destroyed. Those people and the world had all fused into Long Chen's body. But now, this person was skinning Long Chen, removing his bones, slicing his flesh, and sucking his blood. There was no pain in the world that could compare to this kind of pain. But Long Chen could not die. This is your fate. More and more people died. Long Chen stayed with Lingxi every day. He had already become numb as he watched the important people disappear one by one. It will be your turn soon, Long Chen said in a daze. Right now, his heart was already riddled with thousands of holes. In fact, he felt that he was about to die. This was a mysterious feeling. Those who died, on the contrary, felt like they were still alive. Only he was alive, but on the contrary, he felt like he was dead. Lingxi was numb. She was also experiencing the pain of losing everything. That night, Long Chen looked at the boundless night sky. He looked at this dead world. The only thing that existed was the sound of crying. Why did I come to this world? Why did it let me enjoy for 25 years? And why is it so painful? That person seems familiar. Who is he? He gradually escaped from the whirlpool of death. There were too many questions in his heart. According to what that person thought, he should have become more and more silent. In the end, he would lose everything and die alone. But he really had many questions that he did not understand. Lingxi. He waved at Lingxi and asked her to come over. At this moment, he suddenly became clear-headed in the night wind. He had suffered enough pain. It was too much. It was like it was fake. He pulled Lingxi over and looked into her eyes. He asked, if you are going to die tomorrow, will you be reluctant? Lingxi was stunned. She said, I won't. I don't want to die. Chen, you have to save me. She cried very hard. I can't watch him kill you. How about I kill you? Long Chen suddenly asked. The feeling in his heart became stronger and stronger. Many confusing things seemed to explode. Why? Lingxi was stunned. She took a few steps back and looked at Long Chen in fear. Long Chen said, I've had enough. I've had enough of this kind of fate. I want to go against the heavens and change my fate. I can't deal with him. I can only change you. If I kill you, he can't kill you. In this way I will also change my fate. I don't want to be tortured like this anymore. No, you can't kill me. You love me. Lingxi shook her head in pain. Long Chen was stunned. He recalled the man's words. Although he lived in this world, he still couldn't help but ask, why does my life seem to be predetermined? That person is so strong. Why does he target me like this? Am I not an ant in his eyes? He must have some other relationship with me. What could it be? Why did he kill the people around me? Before, Long Chen was busy with pain and didn't think about these questions. But now that these questions exploded, he had more and more doubts. He's just making me suffer. The more pain I feel, the more he'll achieve his goal. He's making me feel pain in my heart. The only way for me to change my fate is to make it impossible for him to achieve his goal. The more pain I feel, the happier he'll be. This was his will. He didn't know where it came from. Although he knew it was impossible not to feel pain, he had perseverance. When this thought appeared, it was like a volcano erupting. It made his body burn. He wanted to see through this confusion and see everything clearly. What was the purpose of Lingxi's appearance? From the moment she appeared, she was destined to die. Would her death cause his heart to die? It seemed to be the 24th day. She was the only one left by his side. Now he should have reached his limit, but on the last day, his thinking had changed him. He brought Lingxi and walked up the desolate city wall. He stood at a high place and waited for that person to arrive. At noon, that person really did descend. His face was filled with a strange smile as he looked at Long Chen and said, "In the blink of an eye, it's the last day. After today, you will be the only living person in this world. You will obtain everyone's life force and live for 1,000,000 years. Slowly enjoy your own world." After saying that, he waved his hand casually. The sky fell and the earth cracked. Only the area around Long Chen was fine. The entire great Chen dynasty flowed with blood. Cries shook the heavens. There were countless dead and injured. Not a single person survived. They were all dead. The old, the weak, the women, and the children were not spared. "How does it feel?" That person laughed and turned to look at Long Chen. He had seen Long Chen's performance yesterday. He had reached his limit. Today was the last attack. If he couldn't do it, he would have to live alone for 1,000,000 years. It would be torturous and painful. He would die in the end. But he didn't expect to see Long Chen smiling at him. He felt like he was struck by lightning. "All life is destroyed and you are smiling at me? Are you a beast?" That person roared angrily. "I'm not in pain. I'm not sad. Are you anxious?" Long Chen laughed even harder. The more he laughed, the more anxious that person became. "I will kill the person you love the most and let you live alone for the rest of your life. Let's see if you can still smile then." That person was about to attack. Long Chen directly attacked. With a push, he pushed Lingxi off the city wall and she fell to her death. This scene made that person even more shocked. He looked at Long Chen in disbelief. You. Long Chen sneered. "I've seen through your goal. I have to thank you for telling me about fate. You let me know what it means to change my fate. You are the extreme bliss array diagram, right? Extreme joy begets sorrow. Sorrow leads to death. But I want to change my fate. I don't want to die." Chapter 2894. He saw through the consequences of the disaster he had created for himself. He saw through this fake world. However, after seeing through it, the entire world changed drastically before his eyes. This was the world he had lived in for 25 years. From extreme bliss to extreme sorrow. The world changed. First, the person in front of Long Chen rapidly vanished. The wind and clouds in the surroundings churned. The city walls vanished. The mountains and rivers vanished. When the storm dispersed, what appeared below him was an extremely clear lake. He could clearly see the pebbles at the bottom of the lake. The entire world had turned into a single law. The so-called Yang formation is actually the condensation of a law? Only then could Long Chen clearly sense the existence of a law in the surroundings. If he had guessed correctly, the name of the law should be bliss. The strongest aspect of the laws of bliss was that they could create illusions that were so difficult to see through. Even Long Chen had fallen deeply into the vortex of fate. It was no wonder that even the Dark Star Divine King had said that even he would most likely die if he entered the Yang formation. The true strength of the Yang formation, also known as the bliss formation, was that it could turn extreme joy into sorrow. Before they died, their hearts would die first. 25 years of happiness, 25 days of nightmares, and 1,000,000 years of imprisonment and torture. As long as they were trapped in there, they would die one day. Not many people could emerge from the laws of bliss quickly and safely. This is actually equivalent to directly opposing the bliss divine king. The reason why Long Chen could wake up was all because of his own willpower, as well as his determination to defy the heavens and change his fate that had developed since he was young. He had a deeper understanding of this than anyone else, as he had risen up from the very bottom of the myriad worlds. Only when the people in the divine kingdom saw that he had woken up did they stop worrying. They had no idea just what kind of hardships Long Chen had gone through in such a short amount of time. Now that he finally saw them safe and sound, Long Chen understood even better just how precious they were. In the bliss formation, Long Chen had lost them and experienced that feeling, but in reality, he was different. There was no longer anyone like Ji Taishu who could stand above him. Of course, he was still restrained by the extreme bliss formation. The extreme bliss laws surrounded him and continued to invade him. It wanted to give him a severe warning and pull him into the extreme bliss illusion once more. Long Chen had experienced all kinds of illusions in his life. Among them, the blissful illusion was the most terrifying and destructive. If he didn't wake up, the consequences would be dire. But now, he had seen through the essence of the blissful illusion. It was a rule. a law that bewitched the essence soul. However, it was this terrifying God-Emperor law that gave Long Chen an epiphany and a new understanding of the destiny law. Although fate is predestined, it isn't certain, because we can all defy the heavens and change our fate. Fate is only the direction of future development, but I can decide my own direction. It was a mysterious feeling. Long Chen ignored the extreme bliss array and immersed himself in a deep world. He saw countless destinies. Sometimes, destiny was like a dark cloud that pressed down on one's head. No one could escape it, but as long as it was a dark cloud, it could be broken. Defying the heavens and changing fate. That's the gist of it. When he had roared the words defying the heavens and changing fate on the city wall, he had felt an intense feeling. Every time that person told him that this was his fate, he had been unwilling. Today he had a deep understanding. Defying the heavens and changing fate was also a rule. A rule that came from destiny. A chaos heavenly fate dragon's rule. That destiny Dao seal gave Long Chen a new understanding. As long as he had a start, everything else would fall into place. He had comprehended this law, and it could be considered that he had inherited this law. As he worked hard to get closer to the law was also getting closer to him. Now, Long Chen's body was covered in a white light. It looked weak, but it was the power of destiny. The destiny heavenly eye and the heart eye of desire were just the beginning. The extreme bliss rule kept attacking him, but it gave birth to the defying the heavens and changing fate law. The extreme bliss rule retreated, and the remaining extreme bliss rule power in Long Chen's body was also eliminated by Long Chen's rule of destiny. Long Chen was carefully feeling out this rule of destiny. Generally speaking, the use of defying the heavens and changing fate was rather broad. It could target all laws and change them, especially those that directly invaded Long Chen's body. For example, Lingxi's divine mind technique, Mo Xiaolong's bone-adhering demonic flame, and the extreme bliss rule would all be changed and expelled by the defying the heavens and changing fate. There were even some unpredictable effects. More directly, Long Chen could not only change his own fate, but he could also change the fate of others. When the defying the heavens and changing fate was used on an opponent, it was similar to the suppression of the destiny heavenly eye, but it was even more terrifying. The destiny heavenly eye could only suppress, but defying the heavens and changing fate was changing fate. Not only did it have a direct effect, but it was also related to fate. With this rule of destiny, Long Chen had long surpassed everyone else in terms of fate. This was also why his luck was always better in battle. A brand new rule. It might seem confusing, but its terrifying effects were definitely comparable to the Sword of Time and Extermination Dragon Seal. Inside the Yang array, Huang Xiaolong abruptly turned around. His gaze pierced through the Yang array, and as expected, he saw Ji Taishu still cultivating. He asked Lingxi, and it turned out that 3 days had passed. 3 days. 25 years. It's like I've gone through a reincarnation cycle. Long Chen sneered. It was time to end this. Under the power of defying the heavens and changing fate, the extreme bliss rule retreated, and Long Chen walked towards Ji Taishu. Outside the paradise of the gods. In the Great Wilderness Monarch Domains team, a deity emperor said, Extreme Bliss Deity Emperor, since that Long Chen entered the Extreme Bliss array, his chances of survival are very low. Are we going to keep waiting like this? Hearing this, the godly kings who supported Long Chen couldn't help but feel helpless. Long Chen's performance this time was amazing, but he still lost to Ji Taishu's scheme. His luck was too bad. If he died, there was no point in challenging the godly king board. The Extreme Bliss Deity Emperor closed her eyes to rest, and said, The rule is that the battle will not end until the victor is decided. Unless Long Chen dies in there. Rules are dead but people are dead. Won't we wait until the end of time? The blissful divine emperor felt a chill run down her spine. She said, The blissful array diagram isn't an easy place to live. In these 10 days, it is highly possible that the people in there have already thought that they have lived for 1,000,000 years. Within 10 days, we will know whether they are dead or alive. Cut the crap. Hearing the Extreme Bliss Deity Emperor's words, the godly king shut his mouth. It's just 10 days, we just have to wait. But hearing this, the godly kings looked at each other. This battle was full of twists and turns, and there were only 7 days left. Would Long Chen be able to come out alive? Would he have to spend 1,000,000 years in there? As the godly kings discussed helplessly, the Extreme Bliss Deity Emperor was suddenly taken aback. Her eyes shone brightly as she stared in the direction of the extreme bliss array. Her strange actions attracted everyone's attention. The gazes of the godly kings landed in that direction as well. Afterwards, they clearly saw Long Chen walk out of the lake easily, standing before Ji Taishu. How is this possible? At that moment, even the godly King Yi cried out like that. On the heaven-punishing war god stars group, the Skylink Divine King and the others were extremely surprised as well. Xing Wuji had recovered quite a lot by now. When she saw Long Chen walk out, her tense heart finally loosened up, but she was still unable to hide the surprise in her eyes. This time, Long Chen had truly won her over. The godly kings fell into an uproar, calling out loudly. Their emotions immediately went from extreme sorrow to extreme joy. Let alone their excitement, even the Dark Star Divine King almost burst into tears at this moment. He knew that it must have been very difficult for Long Chen to emerge. Long Chen! Long Chen! Under the fervent cheers of the godly kings, the blissful Divine King smiled and said to the godly King Yi, "There's nothing impossible for a prodigy. I didn't go easy on him at all." The godly kings and the others could no longer care about them. Under their slightly tense gazes, Long Chen and Ji Taishu faced each other. Back then, Ji Taishu had been recovering freely, so Long Chen's sudden appearance almost frightened him to the point of vomiting blood. When he retreated 1,000 meters and widened his eyes, only then did he discover that it really was Long Chen. "You're not dead. You've come out from inside? The blissful formation?" Ji Taishu even trembled slightly from his shock. He could not even speak clearly. "I haven't dealt with you and ended this battle, so how can I die?" Long Chenji advanced indifferently. He had had enough. The moment he came out, the divine sword and the devil pagoda appeared in his hands. The devil subduing pagoda's 100,000 spirits appeared. Within the god-slaying sword, killing intent soared into the sky. Long Chenji's footsteps quickened as he rushed towards Ji Taishu. Boom! Boom! Every step he took shook the entire Pantheon paradise. Ji Taishu was enraged. He was the son of a hierarch. What did Long Chen treat him as? No matter what, he had already recovered his strength. Long Chen only had a chance to fight him fairly. Impudent! Ji Taishu was enraged. He might be able to fight fairly, but now that Long Chen had come out, it was a good chance. He had the confidence to challenge Xing Wuji. Long Chen might be able to defeat Xing Wuji, but he might not be able to defeat him. "The battle between you and me has just begun." "Is that so? Why do I feel like it's about to end?" Long Chen really wanted to try defying the heavens and changing his fate. Just what could he change? Ji Taishu was even more enraged. Monarch! Demon! He directly transcended his state and transformed himself into his strongest state, becoming a monarch. One had to know that apart from Xing Wuji, Ji Taishu had never used this state against anyone else. Rumble! Rules were unleashed. Ji Taishu was originally an extremely masculine and righteous power, but at this moment, it was as if he had the heart of a devil. His heart suddenly turned black, and the divine power born from the monarch heart technique also instantly turned black. His eyes were blood red, and a large amount of black gas suddenly rose from his body. The black gas turned into a whirlwind that engulfed everything, instantly expanding, and within that whirlwind, a huge beast was born. Activity on WeChat. Yesterday, 2,192 new people. Today, I will fulfill my promise and add one more chapter. Every 2,000 added would add one chapter. Therefore, those who did not follow could continue to follow. That way, they would be able to add one chapter tomorrow. Chapter 2895. Black Storm. Blood-colored killing intent. Once Demon Emperor transformation, the entire world boiled over. This was a power that was no less than Xing Wuji's decapitation. Within the black whirlwind, the winds and clouds changed. All the surrounding trees and mountains were uprooted, turning into dust that swirled in the sky. Demonic chi filled the sky and swept over, even enveloping the entire extreme bliss array diagram. Ji Taishu's power continued to rise, and his body changed completely. From the might of an emperor, he became an evil and cruel demon. He was as bloody and cruel as he wanted to be. Rumor had it that once Demon Emperor transformation, one would completely lose their mind and only know how to kill. Roar! Within the whirlwind, a giant beast erupted, its roar shaking the heavens. This Pantheon paradise was so huge, but it seemed like it could not hold him. That blurry giant beast was covered in blood vessels. Although he had become a demon, his emperor aura had not disappeared. Even if he was a demon, he was still an emperor among demons. This strength is actually about the same as Xueqi. It's just that he underestimated me before, so I succeeded in my sneak attack. Long Chen's heart was terrifyingly calm. Another great battle. Everyone was looking forward to it, especially the godly kings. They would soon be able to see a sumptuous feast. A tense atmosphere spread everywhere. Rumble! The black whirlwind dissipated, and what appeared before Long Chen was a giant beast. Black dragon scales. Bloodlines all over its body. Huge wings, thick hind legs, cold eyes, and monstrous demonic qi. This was the emperor among demons. This kind of body gave Long Chen an incomparably intense shock. Era Sky Fiend. His heart shook. That's right, this was definitely the appearance of Era Sky Fiend. Era Sky Fiend was illusory, but Long Chen had seen his true form before. In terms of appearance, this demon emperor was exactly the same as Era Sky Fiend. Xueqi was completely sure of this, because Xueqi still maintained the appearance of Demon Hua. The difference was the rules. Era Sky Fiend was the overlord of time, and specialized in time rules. However, the Eternal Devil Emperor before him was still of the Tao of Emperors. He should be more proficient in battles, and not the same type as the Era Heavenly Demon. From the War Devil to the Limitless Devil, and then to the Eternal Devil that was similar to the Era Heavenly Devil, Long Chen had a lot of questions in his heart. However, he couldn't ask Ji Taishu on the spot during the battle. He could only find out later. The most important thing right now was to fight. As expected, after transforming into a regal devil, Ji Taishu was completely mindless. He was just like a wild beast. When he saw Long Chen, he let out an earth-shattering roar and charged over furiously. Wherever he went, everything was destroyed. His sharp claws were like the most terrifying fortune divine artifact. The battle between the two sides was on the verge of breaking out. At this moment, Long Chen narrowed his eyes and sneered. Defy the heavens, change fate. The law of destiny erupted. Of course, he wasn't changing his own life, but Ji Taishu's. In his hand, a white light appeared. The white light was very illusory, as though it contained an entire world, with trillions of living beings. When Long Chen released the white light, it instantly disappeared and reappeared in front of the Eternal Devil. As the Eternal Devil roared, the white light silently entered his brow. Suddenly, the Eternal Devil stopped moving. The godly kings who wanted to see the battle between Long Chen and Xueqi were stunned. What was going on? Why did the Eternal Devil stop moving? In the next instant, they saw the Eternal Devil panic. It was as though something in his body was slipping away at a faster and faster speed. In the next instant, he shrank, and the demonic qi on his body disappeared. Very quickly, he transformed back into Ji Taishu in front of Long Chen. Ji Taishu in human form. The Eternal Devil state was removed. This effect of defying the heavens and changing fate made even Long Chen gasp in amazement. He had not expected it to be able to change his opponent's Eternal Devil state to such an extent. In truth, even Long Chen was shocked. What's going on? Ji Taishu was shocked and panicked. Just as he was about to fight, he felt as though his clothes had been stripped off, and his strength disappeared. Not only him, but the godly kings outside the Pantheon paradise were also shocked. But Long Chen did not waste this opportunity. When the heaven-defying law of destiny took effect, Long Chen's figure moved. In the blink of an eye, he traveled thousands of miles, and in his right hand was the sword of time. Ha! In his shock and panic, Ji Taishu hurriedly took out the stately painting to block Long Chen's sword of time. But just like last time, in his panic, his stately painting could only block a limited amount. The sword of time once again pierced through it, sending him flying. Annihilation Dragon Seal. As he flew, the demon-subduing pagoda suddenly appeared, descending from the sky. Under Ji Taishu's horrified gaze, it directly imprinted on his chest. Ji Taishu cried out in pain. In that instant, the stately painting mountain and mountain brush, and Ji Taishu fell to the ground at the same time. The mountain and mountain brush and stately painting stopped moving, while Ji Taishu's face was pale, and his eyes were wide open. Under the Annihilation Dragon seal, he had already lost consciousness. If Long Chen wanted to kill him, he could have just used more force. Of course, Ji Taishu could not be killed. Giving him such a heavy blow was enough to teach him a lesson. Long Chen immediately went over and removed the Annihilation Dragon seal's power of destruction. Then, he used the Fire of Life to remove Ji Taishu's near-death state. He began to recover, but he had not fully woken up yet. It was only at this point that the deity emperors outside came to their senses. In truth, no one had expected this battle to end so quickly. For a moment, every godly king's expression was quite interesting. Although the godly kings found it unbelievable. But Long Chen had won. The third and second on the God King board had both been defeated by him. They had been cheering before, and now their cheers were even louder. Such cheers naturally annoyed the godly kings, but they couldn't stop them. In front of the crowd, they still had to maintain their demeanor. In fact, the battle had ended. The spice that was Long Chen had crushed Xueqi and Ji Taishu. He was the one who ended the battle. He even broke out of the extreme bliss array diagram. This was also a part of his strength. If such a performance couldn't make him the second on the God King board, then there was no need for the God King board to exist. The godly kings were stunned for a long time. The godly kings of the great wilderness monarch heaven were about to explode from anger. They had finally experienced the same feeling as the heaven-punishing war god star. This Long Chen. In short, it was a miracle. Godly King Yi watched as Ji Taishu's regal devil state was removed. Then he was killed, and then he fainted. Those attacks seemed to have landed on him, causing his face to twitch. All right, the battle is over. Come out. The Extreme Bliss Deity Emperor made the final decision. The Paradise of Pantheon was hers. Under his will, Long Chen and the unconscious Ji Taishu appeared outside the Paradise of Pantheon. The Extreme Bliss Deity Emperor waved his hand, and the Paradise of Pantheon turned into a small ball, and was kept by him. Long Chen returned Ji Taishu to Godly King Yi. The burning gazes of Godly King Yi and the others failed to scare Long Chen. With that done, Long Chen returned to the Dark Star God Emperor's side. After the cheers, everyone fell silent, waiting for the aftermath of the battle to be dealt with. Long Chen had no authority or backing. He might suffer a loss here. But to be honest, everyone acknowledged his strength. He was someone who could defeat a godly king. He was a heaven-defying genius. He was already the second on the God King ranking in everyone's hearts. It was extremely quiet at first. Ji Taishu had already woken up under the care of Godly King Yi and the others. At first, he was extremely reluctant to accept this, but Godly King Yi held him down and immobilized him. However, he continued to glare at Long Chen furiously. He was far too reluctant to accept his defeat, as he had not been able to fight Long Chen as a regal demon emperor. But he had still lost. There was no such thing as morality in a battle. At this moment, Godly King Bliss was discussing with the other godly kings of the Empyrean region. Actually, there was nothing much to discuss. They were also shocked by how Long Chen had emerged from the Bliss formation and almost instantly killed Ji Taishu. This kind of power, this kind of talent, deeply shook their hearts. As a result, Godly King Bliss announced in the end. Based on the performance of the three sides, we'll start with Long Chen. Long Chen easily finished off 1,000,000 demons and heavily injured Ji Taishu in the chaotic battle. Then, he defeated Xueqi in an open battle. Although he was tricked into the Bliss formation, he actually made it out and defeated Ji Taishu in an open battle. His performance was the most outstanding among the three, so he's ranked second on the God King ranking. Finally, his wish came true. Second on the God King ranking. This title was enough to shake the entire Empyrean region alliance. Now, Long Chen would definitely become an influential figure in the Empyrean region alliance in a very short period of time. After all, defeating Tian Yi was different from defeating Xueqi and Ji Taishu in a chaotic battle. Ji Taishu had not expected that he would be the one to challenge Xueqi, but he had become Long Chen's stepping stone, allowing Long Chen to have the last laugh. Following that, there was no official battle between Xueqi and Ji Taishu. But based on their battle with Long Chen and their previous rankings, Ji Taishu did not meet the requirements to turn the tables. Hence, Xueqi fell to third place on the God King ranking, while Ji Taishu fell to fourth place. Xueqi did not care much about this, but Ji Taishu did, because this was related to the competition between him and his brother. But the dust had settled. The blissful divine emperor looked around and said coldly, according to the rules, both Xueqi and Ji Taishu were defeated by Long Chen. Therefore, both of them have to hand over their bets to Long Chen. This kind of matter, of course, had to be carried out under the supervision of the crowd. This way, they could not renege on the bet. In the God-King ranking battle, the bets had to be honored. Otherwise, they would be directly expelled from the God-King ranking, and would no longer have the qualifications to challenge again. Xueqi was very straightforward. She walked forward with a deep look in her eyes, but her style was still the same as before. With a wave of her hand, she threw a creation-grade Fortune Divine artifact box to Long Chen and said, "The Grand Mist Fire Spark is inside. The medicinal effect is too strong, so use it carefully." After saying that, she left. Rich fire energy. He could give it to Mo Xiaolang. Then, he would give it to Ji Taishu's Fortune Divine Stone. Chapter 2896. There was nothing he could do even if he wasn't satisfied. This was the Godly King List Battle, a grand event of the Heavenly Region Alliance. Even though he was the son of Xin Jun, he had to abide by the rules of the Heavenly Region Alliance. Fortune Divine Stone. Take it. Ji Taishu tossed the Fortune Divine Stone to Long Chen. Long Chen held the primordial chaos treasure and saw divine power flowing on the creation Divine Stone. It was very mysterious. Perhaps it could restore the spiritual dual swords. Both the Fortune Divine Stone and the primordial chaos fire spark were of great use to Long Chen. He had gained a lot from this battle. Of course, Ji Taishu wasn't satisfied. However, Xueqi stood between him and Long Chen. If he wanted to challenge Long Chen, he had to get past Xueqi. Therefore, he couldn't do anything to Long Chen in terms of the Godly King list. If I don't pass the Godly King list, I can kill him easily. However, he might be of humble birth, but his performance is outstanding. Who knows how many people want to rope him in? In this case, today's revenge would be far in the future. Let's go. Ji Taishu knew that the results of today's battle would quickly spread back to the great wilderness Emperor Heaven. He would become a joke. Therefore, he didn't want to stay here. Even if God Emperor Yi didn't leave, he would. The God Emperors of the Great Wilderness Emperor Heaven bade farewell and left. Xueqi's group and God Emperor Bliss weren't in a hurry to leave. At this time, God Emperor Bliss said, "Long Chen, you're Great Emperor Donghua's disciple and also a member of the Heavenly Region Alliance, right?" Her gaze as an ultimate God Emperor seemed to be able to see through everything. Secrets couldn't be hidden from her eyes. "Yes," Long Chen answered straightforwardly. This was why he was able to gain the Heavenly Region Alliance's help. Although he wasn't as high as the Divine Sovereign's children, he was still respected. The God Emperor of the Eternal Celestial Race wasn't qualified to act against him. "Very well, you're one of us. Work hard in cultivation. Darkstar, I'll leave Long Chen to you for now. Once he becomes a God Emperor, he can head to the Emperor God Fiend battlefield." The Bliss Divine Emperor had a high status in the Heaven Domain Alliance. "Yes." The Darkstar God Emperor nodded and finally let out a sigh of relief. At this moment, he shot a glance at Long Chen, basically wanting Long Chen to tell the blissful God Emperor and the others about the Eternal God race. However, Long Chen shook his head and said nothing about it. At this time, the blissful Divine Emperor suddenly laughed and said, "Long Chen, I heard that you will challenge the #1 on the Godly King board, and the unparalleled Heavenly God, right?" This was what Long Chen said about half a year ago. Now everyone knew. Even if he didn't want to challenge it, he was in a difficult position. Moreover, he felt that he was still not good enough. He could still go beyond his limits. Therefore, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he nodded. "Not bad. I'll bring this news to unrivaled Heavenly God. If he accepts your challenge, I'll let you know. Just wait patiently in this King-grade God Fiend battlefield. If he has such intentions, it definitely won't take long. Perhaps, it would be within half a month. Challenging unrivaled Heavenly God and challenging the #1 on the Godly King ranking would be the end of Long Chen's series of challenges. He had been looking forward to this moment a long time ago. Let alone everything else, even if he became the #1 on the Godly King ranking, he would gain even greater fame and status in the Heaven Region Alliance in the future. It would not be easy for Di Jun to kill him. Afterwards, the blissful divine emperor and the others returned to the king-grade god-fiend battlefield. Xing Wuji, on the other hand, was still in a hurry to leave. She stood before Long Chen. Even if she was not fighting, her gaze was extremely passionate, and she radiated with a domineering aura. Now, she stared at Long Chen and said sternly, "Do you really want to challenge unrivaled heavenly god?" "That's my final goal," said Long Chen. Xing Wuji nodded slightly. "I do admire you very much. If you encounter any trouble in the future, you can come to me. I might be able to help. Moreover, I'll challenge you at any time and take back my position on the Godly King ranking." After saying that, she gave Long Chen a way to contact her directly. It was obvious that she really admired Long Chen, and she now treated Long Chen as a friend. Xing Wuji's personality had always been this straightforward. She communicated with Long Chen in front of everyone. From the looks of it, everyone knew that Long Chen would definitely rise to the top. If they wanted to touch him, they would have to see if they could offend battle god Xing Tian first. Among the godly kings, the two eternal god tribe godly emperors must have seen this scene. "Let's go." The team of godly emperors also left. Only Long Chen and the other godly kings were left behind. Without the suppression of the godly emperors, the godly kings finally cheered for Long Chen. Truth be told, they worshipped Long Chen too much. Long Chen had obtained two great treasures, and he had also comprehended the heaven-defying and fate-changing nomological law. He had gained a lot. After communicating with the godly kings for a while, he said, "Everyone, I have to go back and prepare for the final battle. That is the most crucial battle." The godly kings were in an uproar. The final battle. Right now, Long Chen's name was ranked below unrivaled heavenly gods. He was ranked second on the godly king list. After the battle, his name had already spread throughout the mid to high-level worlds of the 5 major domains of the Sky Region Alliance. Even the heavenly god territory was talking about Long Chen's name. That was because everyone knew that unrivaled heavenly god would definitely accept Long Chen's challenge. All these years, he had been looking for opportunities to challenge experts and break through his limits. Unrivaled heavenly god was the pride of the heavenly god territory. Long Chen did not know who he was, and he did not want to know anything about unrivaled heavenly god. Therefore he said to Ling Luo, "The more I don't know, the more breakthroughs I will have in battle. Therefore this time, I don't want to know anything about him. I'm afraid that will be very difficult." After all, unrivaled heavenly god had once challenged a perfected godly emperor in the Emperor Demon battlefield. Ling Luo said, slightly worried. "Did he win?" "It seems like he lost, but he did not win either." Long Chen had an idea. If that was the case, he should be stronger than Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu. He is also the #1 godly king in the Northern Starfield, and even in the entire universe. If you defeat him, you will be the #1 godly king in the world. In fact, Long Chen was only a godly emperor. The #1 godly king in the universe. This title was quite resounding. Unrivaled heavenly god was a terrifying person. He is also widely recognized as someone who will definitely become a supreme god in the future. Moreover, it is said that he is only one step away from becoming a godly emperor. Even half a step. He is in the realm where he can become a godly emperor at any time. Actually, you don't have to challenge him. When he becomes a godly emperor, you will be the #1 godly king in the world. Fighting with him at this time is the perfect time. This kind of battle will be beneficial for the rest of your life. Long Chen was not nervous at all. He said in a relaxed manner. It was as if he was not challenging an opponent stronger than Xing Wuji and Ji Taishu combined. Unrivaled heavenly god has too many legends. I will not tell you more. He is also the only son of the heavenly god region lord, who is said to be the #1 godly king in the Northern Starfield. It is said that his cultivation base has reached the peak of the universe and is comparable to heaven. He can crush the Heaven Punisher, Shen Jun, and Shen Yi. It was obvious that this was a real existence that was comparable to the supreme dragon god. Close to the progenitor realm, similar to the dragon attendant. This was definitely someone who had survived from before the epic. Of course, he might have been changed by the Sky Swallowing clan and lost his memories from before the epic. Or he might have been tampered with. In the current world, this heavenly god region lord should be the true strongest person in the universe, one of the supreme beings. There might not be more than 5 in the entire universe. Of course, the universe was so big. There must be many hidden beings. This godly king. What is his name? Long Chen did not want to know about unrivaled heavenly god, but he was slightly interested in the heavenly god region lord, the #1 person in the heavenly region alliance. Ling Luo's voice was trembling as she said softly, "It is said that no matter who it is, as long as his name is mentioned, he will hear and see." Long Chen's hair stood on end. The chaotic sky-swallowing dragon was the same. That was why Long Chen did not dare to mention his name. Perhaps people at their level were all that terrifying. But Ling Luo had already said it. She said, "Of course, it is just a rumor. I have said it dozens of times, but I feel nothing. The Heavenly God Region Lord. His name is Heavenly God Luya." After saying that, she looked around as if she did not feel anything. Long Chen, however, felt a chill down his spine. He quickly suppressed it, not wanting Heavenly God Luya to notice him. Fortunately, the feeling passed quickly. "All right, then I will wait for the good news from the blissful God Emperor." This time, Long Chen's spiritual will had been severely damaged in the blissful array. He had to rest for a while, and he had something else to do. A very important thing. "Then I will go back first." Ling Luo had thought that since he was going to challenge unrivaled heavenly god, she would prepare all the information for him. But this time, Long Chen did not need it. "You must succeed. Xuanji is waiting for you. If you can defeat my little martial ant directly, you will be able to avoid a lot of trouble." After Ling Luo left, Long Chen looked at the situation in the God Nation. Lingxi was using the Fortune Sacred Stone to refine the spiritual dual swords. Now, the two little butterflies were bathing in the power of the Fortune Sacred Stone and were enjoying themselves happily. The two swords had also become rounder, and were beginning to have the aura of a chaotic Yuan-grade Fortune Sacred weapon. Lingxi specialized in the heavenly rule spiritual technique and was continuously improving. It would not be long before she became a God Emperor. According to Long Chen's estimation, God Emperor Ling Su should have been an ultimate God Emperor. How is it? He was more concerned about the spiritual dual swords. After all, they were weapons that had accompanied him for many years. Especially the spiritual sword. That was the proof of his and Lingxi's first love. After it ends, you can recover. After all, it is a chaotic Yuan-grade chaos treasure. It was said that the creation of the Fortune Sacred Stone was very complicated. It was very effective. As for Mo Xiaolang, he had already swallowed the primordial sparks. Chapter 2897. How much he could reach after devouring the primordial sparks would be up to him. He was still a great perfection God King right now, but he already possessed the strength to challenge the God King ranking. Long Chen estimated that once he devoured the chaotic primordial immortal essence, reaching final God King would not be a problem with his might as a member of the Sky Devouring clan. By then, Mo Xiaolang would probably be able to make it into the top 10 of the God King ranking. By then, he would even be able to use the Sun-slaying Divine Bow and the Sunset Divine Arrow. Although he would not be able to train like Tian Yi, with Mo Xiaolang's talent, he would still be able to unleash different levels of power. As a result, Mo Xiaolang was extremely grateful to Long Chen. Long Chen had risked his life to obtain all of this for him. Of course, he would not act pretentiously. He knew that once he used these resources, he would assist Long Chen in accomplishing his great cause. With these treasures, Mo Xiaolang's growth would definitely be very rapid. As for Zhu Shi, Sui Yan, and Yang Lingqing, they were not particularly skilled in battle in the first place. As long as they could protect themselves in the battles of the myriad worlds, that would be enough. Actually, Long Chen did not want to rest. After Ling Luo left, he instead turned around and left the second floor of the God King ranking. "Big brother, I'll go deal with them," Mo Xiaolang asked softly. "Yep, it'll be time." Long Chen smiled coldly. After being threatened for so long, the battle this time had already made Long Chen gain a deep understanding of his battle prowess, so he made his choice. "It's a pity that I was at a critical moment, or I could share an opponent with you," Mo Xiaolang said. He would always be the most powerful person by Long Chen's side at all times. "Don't worry, there's still 6. I'll leave 1 or 2 for you when the time comes," Long Chen smiled. As soon as he arrived on the first floor of the battlefield of gods and demons, the Dark Star God Emperor was already waiting for him at the entrance. He saw Long Chen and smiled helplessly. "When you chose not to tell the Divine King of Bliss about their threat to you, I knew you were prepared for this. Long Chen, you're confident. Long Chen said yes. Seeing how confident he was, the Dark Star God Emperor was not worried either. He said, with the strength you demonstrated against Ji Taishu, it's indeed possible. It'll be rather difficult to take on two at the same time, but at the very least, your life won't be in danger. The strongest technique of the eternal god race is the soul sacrificial technique, which can steal the power of living beings. However, there are no living beings on Mount Buzhou, so they probably won't benefit from encountering you here. That's right. This time, Long Chen was going to kill the two god emperors of the Eternal God clan. This was a personal grudge. Now that he was shining brighter and brighter, and the Heaven Region Alliance had high hopes for him, there were some things that he could do. Actually, what the Dark Star God Emperor did not know was that Long Chen's Eye of Wishes was even more powerful than the soul sacrificial technique. If there were living beings, the God Emperors of the Eternal God race would not benefit either. Do you need my follower to assist you? The Dark Star God Emperor asked after some thought. He did not really want Long Chen to take the risk. After all, Long Chen still had to fight an invincible god. There's no need. Just wait for me here. Long Chen directly left the battlefield of gods and demons. When he appeared outside the battlefield of gods and demons, the two god emperors who had been watching over him the entire time, afraid that he would flee, already noticed him. Xueqi, he's actually fled. After him. The two god emperors who had remained behind were Xueqi and Shenzhen. Of course, the 8 of them were completely similar, and they did not differ in gender, so Long Chen had no idea who was who. To him, the 8 god emperors were just flies that he could not shake off no matter how hard he tried. Sure enough, they had obtained the execution order of the Heaven Region. This proved that Long Chen's decision to challenge the God King ranking was the right one. If he had not defeated Ji Taishu and Xueqi, he would have been punished by the Heaven Region Alliance even if he had the ability to kill them. However, his status was different now, and he was Xueqi's friend. He was already qualified. Long Chen had obtained the right to challenge the God King ranking. He secretly left the battlefield of gods and demons and immediately accelerated, fleeing towards Mount Buzhou in the darkness. Xueqi and Shenzhen, who had been guarding the battlefield of gods and demons, had no choice but to chase after him. They followed closely behind Long Chen. Looking at the red and black figure in front of him, Xueqi unleashed his full strength and said angrily, "This Long Chen can contend against a god emperor in the blink of an eye. Even I can't catch up to him with his speed. With the strength he used to defeat Ji Taishu today, it'll probably be quite difficult for the two of us to kill him. Don't worry, we don't need to kill him. We just need to keep him busy. After all, he's a wretched genius." Xueqi frowned deeply. A streak of red light and 2 streaks of white light followed closely behind, passing through the thick black mist and crossing the mountains and plains. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The wind around them whistled sharply. Shenzhen, you said that he's becoming more and more powerful, and that the Sky Region Alliance is paying more and more attention to him. Xueqi even thinks highly of him. If we don't kill him quickly, we'll have already offended him, and we won't have a good ending in the future, right? Shenzhen said gloomily, that's right. The enmity has already been sown, and there's no point in regretting it. The only thing we need to do now is to control him and kill him as soon as possible. We can't give him any chances. If his status rises, then our god sacrifice great realm will definitely suffer. Now that the two of them understood this, they were even more afraid that Long Chen would escape. If this fellow escaped and returned after many years, he would definitely destroy them. Wait, isn't he going to challenge unrivaled heavenly god? Why is he running away now? Before he challenges unrivaled heavenly god, we can't touch him. Xueqi was shocked when he heard this. I understand now. He lured us here. The two of them instantly stopped in their tracks. But when they looked back, they realized that after chasing for so long, they were already far away from the battlefield of gods and demons. It would be a long time before they could even return. At that moment, Long Chen also stopped in his tracks. He turned around and walked toward the two god emperors. His head was lowered, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. As he approached, he sneered. You two, I'm just here to relax. Why are you following me? Are you hoping to have a wonderful encounter with me? What a load of crap. Xueqi and Shenzhen exchanged a glance. They leaned close to each other, and their divine power surged. Their murderous intent gradually filled the air. Xueqi said, Looks like you're confident that you can silence us. How bold of you. However, we've already obtained the Heavenly Region kill order. It looks like today is a great opportunity for us. Shenzhen said, "You've got guts. To be honest, we admire you, but you've underestimated the Eternal God tribe. Today, you'll pay the price, kid." This was Long Chen's first time challenging a real God Emperor. When his divine sword and demonic pagoda were ready, Xingui and Shenzhen also made their moves. They shouted at the same time and took out their Fortune Divine weapons. Their Fortune Divine weapons were exactly the same. Normally, dignified God Emperors could own a Primordial Chaos Divine artifact, but it was still rare to see a similar Creation Divine artifact. They were holding a snow-white scepter in their hands. It was pure white and looked like a pure gem, crystal clear. However, it was undeniable that this scepter contained a very majestic and overbearing Creation Divine power. This is the Holy Deity Scepter. Shengui and Shenzhen looked at each other and smiled. Their divine power and the Holy Deity Scepter were very compatible, and their Fortune Divine power and divine power were practically a perfect fusion. In comparison, their strength should be about the same as Ji Taishu and Xing Wuji. However, they were God Emperors after all, and they were difficult to deal with. But today wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. Shengui and Shenzhen didn't want to waste any more time. If they didn't kill Long Chen, they wouldn't be able to rest easy. After taking out their identical Holy Deity scepters, they attacked. Divine River of Destruction. The two of them brandished their Holy Deity scepters at the same time. As their divine power exploded, the two Holy Deity scepters each created a river that rushed towards Long Chen. Each river contained destructive divine power, which was the unique divine power and laws of the Eternal God tribe. The two Divine River of Destruction were like two venomous snakes, tearing apart the God-fiend mountain range and rushing towards Long Chen. Long Chen was relying on the demon-suppressing pagoda to protect himself. When he saw the incoming attack, he immediately turned into a blood-red shadow and rushed towards the two of them. The God-slaying sword condensed the power of time, and he slashed downwards. The sword of time that he had mastered erupted, and a strange sword light flashed past, instantly colliding with the Divine River of Destruction. Bang! This was a battle of laws, a battle between Fortune Divine weapons. As Long Chen had expected, wherever the sword of time went, the Divine River of Destruction couldn't block it at all. Under the violent attack of Long Chen's sword of time, the two Divine Rivers of Destruction directly exploded, turning into a divine rain that rained down on the God-fiend mountain range, creating huge craters in the ground. Long Chen's strength had surpassed the expectations of the two God Emperors, and they couldn't help but sigh in amazement. After shattering the Divine River of Destruction, the Sword of Time let out a shrill whistle and pounced towards God Gui and God General. They didn't even have time to defend themselves, and a few sword wounds instantly appeared on their bodies, causing them to be drenched in blood. Puchi! The two God Emperors faced Long Chen together, but they were instantly killed by Long Chen, and they were sent flying backwards. Done. Long Chen had a rough idea of what level his strength was at. After all, he had always fought against God Kings who stood at the peak of the myriad of worlds, and he didn't know how strong he was against God Emperors. But today, he finally saw it. With the Sword of Time, even the once terrifying God Emperors were defeated by him in a single move. His goal was to kill. Hence, without a second word, he rushed forward again. Long Chen. The two God Emperors couldn't be any more shocked. Only now did they understand that even if the two of them joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for Long Chen. Back in the paradise of the gods, they had witnessed the battle, but they had still underestimated Long Chen. After all, they didn't know the difference between them and Ji Taishu. When the two God Emperors saw Long Chen charging at them with his sword, they were shocked. They exchanged a glance and nodded at each other, and then, a huge transformation happened to them. Heavenly Fusing Divine Art. Under Long Chen's pursuit, the two God Emperors clasped their hands together. Their bodies shone with white light, and in the next instant, their bodies actually turned into liquid, and then rapidly merged into a ball before taking human form. They originally looked the same, but at this moment, they actually combined into one, becoming a single person. He now knew how powerful the Heavenly Fusion Divine Method was, and he also admired them for being able to hide it so deeply, but he really wanted to try and see if he could break the Heavenly Fusion Divine Method. At that moment, before the Deity Emperors attacked, Long Chen's eyes suddenly turned white. In his hand, there was still that white light, hiding an illusory world. This was the law of fate. Defying the heavens and changing fate. The white light rapidly shot towards the deity emperors. Seeing this white light, the deity emperors vaguely felt that it was familiar, but they could not recall what it was. They knew that this was a law, but it did not seem to have any lethality. Don't struggle before death. The deity emperors shouted as the holy deity scepter erupted with monstrous power. A pale white sun vaguely appeared above it. At this moment, the law of defying the heavens and changing fate entered the deity emperor's glabella and gathered there. In a short moment, the law of the deity emperors suddenly stopped. What's going on? Immediately after, everything was out of their control. The heavenly fusion divine art collapsed. Shen Gui and Shen Zhen were suddenly torn out of the same body and were sent flying. The failure of the heavenly fusion divine art caused their qi and blood to churn. For a moment, their minds were in a daze. Why would the stable heavenly fusion divine art have a problem at this moment? Impossible. Although they shook their heads, they soon recalled why Long Chen's white light seemed familiar. That was the law that Long Chen had used on the sovereign devil. Under this law, even the sovereign devil's state was instantly dispelled, let alone the heavenly fusion divine art. As such, they were stunned and flustered. After receiving such a huge blow, it was as if they had fallen from heaven to hell. Of course, Long Chen would not let go of this opportunity. Dragon Seal of Extinction. He used defying the heavens and changing fate and caught up with Shen General as Shen Zhen stood up in a panic. The demon-suppressing pagoda descended on his head. In that instant, Shen Zhen roared and used the holy deity scepter to block the demon-suppressing pagoda. However, the Dragon Seal of Extinction was too fast and too fierce. He could not react in time and the holy deity scepter was directly suppressed. The Dragon Seal of Extinction struck him directly. Ah! A scream of shock. This time, Long Chen did not hold back. Shen Zhen's spirit dispersed. As a dignified god emperor, his primordial spirit was in danger. At this time, Long Chen arrived behind him and suppressed his holy deity scepter. At the same time, his hands turned into claws. He had been longing for this for a long time. Such an opponent could not be blamed for using the Blood Devour. He rarely gave his benevolence to enemies who wanted him dead. Right in front of Shen Gui. Under the devouring of the Blood Devour, Shen Zhen was reduced to ashes. His flesh and blood were all devoured by the primordial blood spirit dragon. Everything disappeared, and Shen Gui was willing to lose his connection with Shen Zhen. Shen Zhen. Shen Gui screamed in a voice that sounded like a woman's. However, Shen Zhen had disappeared. Only Long Chen, who was covered in blood-red dragon scales, was holding the ice-cold god-slaying sword with a murderous aura. He raised his head and looked at Shen General at that moment. Long Chen was like a demon. Shen Zhen was so scared that his whole body trembled. Only at this moment did he realize that he was in big trouble. Shen Zhen was killed. He had fallen. He was one of the 8 god emperors of the god-sacrificial great world. You'll die a horrible death. Shen Gui roared and quickly turned around to escape. With his power as a god emperor, it was not impossible for him to escape. In order to escape, he had already done his best. Poof! But not long after he escaped, a blurred sword light flashed past and separated his head from his body. After losing his will to fight, he was even less of a match for Long Chen. In the blink of an eye, Long Chen used the god-slaying sword to pin him to the ground. The demon suppression pagoda suppressed Shen Gui's body. Do you regret going against me for your reputation? Long Chen stared at Shen Gui with cold eyes, which made his hair stand on end. Of course I don't regret it. I still have 6 brothers. They have the killing order of the heavenly region and can kill you at any time. Even if you kill me, what's the use? Shen Gui said stubbornly. He thought that perhaps Long Chen would control him and then threaten the other god emperors, so he was not worried. However, he guessed wrong. In Long Chen's mind, the remaining 6 god emperors were far less terrifying than Shen Gui thought. Don't worry. I can lose my intuition in an instant. Long Chen held the demon-suppressing pagoda and pressed it down. The Dragon Seal of Extinction directly hit Shen Gui's chest. Ah! Shen Gui's eyes widened as he glared at Long Chen. However, in that instant his spiritual soul collapsed. All that was left was a remnant soul that was unwilling to give up. Just as Long Chen had said, the Dragon Seal of Extinction had freed him very quickly. He had died almost instantly. Then, there was a new round of blood devouring. Of course, Long Chen did not forget to control the two holy god scepters. They were divine weapons of creation at the origin level. In the future, Yang Lingqing, Xueqi, and the others could use them. Even his entire divine nation and countless divine dragons needed a large number of divine weapons of creation. Long Chen had to collect them himself. So basically, Long Chen would not let go of the divine weapons of creation. Most importantly, Yang Qi was already very close to the God King level, and after the deadly battles he had just fought, he had advanced by leaps and bounds. He had gained enlightenment of numerous magical laws, and was now at the consummate level. After devouring two god emperors, his blood energy seethed as he used the magical laws of blood to transform his opponent's flesh and blood into god spirit quintessence power, which he then used the primeval chaos scripture to transform into primeval chaos god power. The chaos origin divine power surged, constantly surpassing the limit. There was a final sound. Long Chen had surpassed the limit. Finally, like Mo Xiaolang and the others, he had reached the grand incipient immortal realm, which was the God King realm. He was a primordial God King. Although his cultivation level was still the lowest, he was still the strongest. Inside his body, there was an incomparably surging power. Trillions of divine palaces were boiling. Because of his breakthrough, even the creatures in the divine kingdom received the favor of Long Chen. Many people directly broke through as well. God King. For a long time, Long Chen's realm and divine power had been his shortcomings. However, this time, he had become even stronger in this aspect after the charge and promotion. Coming out and going back. In fact, Long Chen was no longer the same. The other 6 god emperors must have known about this battle. Long Chen did not care. He looked in the direction of the battlefield of gods and demons. I seem to have a better chance of fighting unrivaled God King. He can match a perfection god emperor. Perhaps I can do it now. After muttering to himself, Long Chen prepared to go back and prepare for the upcoming battle. As long as he defeated unrivaled God King, he would be able to shake the world again. Then, even if the other 6 god emperors had the celestial domain kill order, Long Chen would not be afraid because he was not afraid of the heavenly fusion divine skill. Seeing Long Chen return, God Emperor Darkstar's tense heart relaxed. He said, "Long Chen, there's news. Unrivaled God King will fight in half a month." Chapter 2899. Battle? Half a month from now, huh? Long Chen murmured. This was enough time for him to stabilize his current cultivation as a God King. After saying that, the Dark Star God Emperor stared at Long Chen and studied him. Not only was Long Chen uninjured, but his vigor had even increased drastically. He finally felt a little like a God King. The Dark Star God Emperor was shocked. He asked, "What's the result?" "I've already killed them, and I've even made some breakthroughs. I should be even more confident about the upcoming battle," Long Chen said very nonchalantly. "A miracle." The Dark Star God Emperor could not help but sigh in amazement. When Long Chen first entered the battlefield, he remembered that he basically gave it his all in battles that were not on the God King ranking. However, in the past half a year, his opponents constantly changed, and he constantly grew stronger. This speed could be described as a miracle. With that, the 6 of them wield the slaughter order of the heaven region, so they won't stop until you're dead. However, your strength approaches mine, so there's no need for you to fear them. You just need to be a little careful. The Dark Star God Emperor was extremely satisfied with Long Chen. It was Emperor Donghua's good fortune to be able to pass on the Divine Sword and Demon Tower to Long Chen. "Thank you for taking care of me during this period of time, Your Majesty. I'll never forget it." The Dark Star God Emperor was a person who placed great importance on brotherhood. It was exactly because Long Chen had inherited Emperor Donghua's Divine Sword and Demon Tower that not only did he give him the Chaos Scripture, but he even protected him several times. Long Chen respected someone like that very much. The Dark Star God Emperor said, "You don't have to be so polite with me." Also, although the details of the battle haven't been confirmed yet, it's said that the higher-ups are taking this battle with great importance. It'll obviously be much more important than the battle in the Pantheon Paradise. Although it won't be as complicated as the battle in the Pantheon Paradise, it'll definitely be grander when the time comes, and the influence will be greater too. Yeah, I understand. Long Chen obviously understood that he was challenging the first on the God King ranking this time. The first on the God King ranking meant the greatest God King of the myriad worlds. There were countless God Kings in the myriad worlds, so it went without saying what the greatest God King was. Furthermore, he was the only son of heavenly god Lu Ya. I'm afraid this battle will take place in the Emperor Deity Demon battlefield. At that time, it's likely that all the divine emperors in the Emperor Deity Demon battlefield will be watching and witnessing this battle. This is the influence and grandeur of this battle. Now, at least in the Northern Starfield, almost everyone in the Heavenly Domain Alliance knows about this battle and is looking forward to it. All the god emperors would be watching the battle. If Li Xuanji's master was alarmed, he would probably come out of his seclusion. Now, Long Chen was not so afraid of her. Li Xuanji had once said the word God Emperor, and Long Chen had just killed 2 god emperors. Just imagine, all the godly emperors from the myriad realms were here to watch the battle. At that time, the news would definitely shake the myriad realms. The myriad realms were so huge. Speaking of which, it was really quite stressful. 10,000 worlds. 10,000 worlds. I'll go prepare first. Long Chen bade farewell to the Dark Star God Emperor and went to the second floor of the God King ranking. As for the first floor, it was empty right now. During the time he stabilized his cultivation as a God King, the news of him defeating Xueqi and Ji Taishu, as well as the news that he was about to challenge an unparalleled god, had basically spread across the higher worlds of the myriad realms. A new star had risen up among the myriad realms, emerging out of nowhere. The name Long Chen had already become extremely renowned among the god fiends. The dragon servants should have heard it too. Or perhaps they would be relieved. To Long Chen's relief, Mo Xiaolang had successfully broken through to the ultimate God King realm after devouring the primordial sparks and completely digesting them. He had reached the ultimate realm of the grand beginning God King realm, the realm that Demon Hua had reached in her prime. In terms of cultivation, Mo Xiaolang and Xueqi were already extremely ahead of the others. Afterwards, Mo Xiaolang already possessed sufficient strength to study and control the Sunshot Bow and Sunset God Arrow. He did not possess the laws of bow and arrow like Tian, but he was more proficient with fire. He possessed 2 ancestral fires and the laws of devouring, which deterred the 2 heroic spirits. Before long, the Sunshot Bow and Sunset God Arrow had already become his weapons. Combined with Chaotic Prime, Long Chen estimated that when Mo Xiaolang mastered them, he would possess battle prowess equivalent to Tian, or even surpass it. Under the refinement of the Fortune Divine Stone, the Lingsu swords finally recovered to Chaotic Prime, returning to their peak condition. They had returned to how they were in the hands of God Queen Ling Su. The power of the Lingsu swords was roughly the same as the Divine Sword Demon Tower, except the Lingsu swords were more orthodox, while the Divine Sword Demon Tower was more murderous. Lingxi was about to reach Final God King too. If it were not for the fact that she was pregnant, her battle prowess would be no weaker than Mo Xiaolang once she became a Final God King. As a result, the entire group had become unprecedentedly stronger. Long Chen was much more at ease with them. The tragedy in the ecstasy array would not happen again. But no matter what, the next battle was still a difficult challenge. Moreover, it was against a group of people who stood at the pinnacle of the myriad realms. A few days later, Ling Luo came over again. She still wore the black flower on her head. It was enchanting and beautiful, making her more gentle and intelligent. She said softly, "It seems to be confirmed that the battle between you and Unparalleled God will take place in the Emperor-level God-Fiend battlefield. With such a huge commotion, my Ant Master will definitely know and watch. Do you have a plan in mind? This is inevitable. How does your Ant Master's battle prowess compare to Unparalleled God's?" Ling Luo said, "After all, Unparalleled God is not a true God Emperor. Therefore, God Emperor Mo Sang is slightly better. Her name is Mo Sang. Just slightly better. At least she can't kill me. Moreover, if I can become first on the God King list, there will be more people protecting me. I have to fight her head-on, and it's about time." Seeing that Long Chen was so confident, Ling Luo's slightly worried mood relaxed a little. She was still a little nervous. She asked, then, "What if I lose?" Long Chen smiled. "We'll deal with it when it comes. I'm not afraid of Unparalleled God, nor am I afraid of Mo Sang. Even if she watches, I'll just watch." In the myriad realms, he had no power or influence. Only his strength could win the respect of these god fiends. "I should be happy for Xuanji that you're so confident. I hope she can find happiness." She has suffered a lot with Mo Sang. I can't stand Mo Sang's temper. Speaking of Li Xuanji, Ling Luo's face was filled with worry. It was not easy for her to be alone. They had been separated for decades. Her longing for him was already like a raging river. If they had not been separated, she would not have understood how much she cherished him. She was probably not free and comfortable day and night. The only person she could rely on was Long Chen. Back then, it was Long Chen who gave her the black needle. He had to take responsibility. There were only 5 days left until the final battle. During these 10 days, Long Chen's name spread across the myriad realms. On this day, the Dark Star God King had already arrived. He said, "The location of the battle has already been determined. It'll be the Golden River battlefield of the Emperor God Fiend battlefield. The Golden River battlefield is a battlefield that only great perfection God Kings can set foot in. We've basically made an exception this time, allowing you to fight." As expected, all the God Kings who are still in the Emperor God Fiend battlefield will be watching. With so many God Kings watching, it was a form of pressure in itself. After all, every single one of them was a figure who stood at the apex of the myriad realms, and they had cultivated for tens of millions of years. They were extremely terrifying. "I'll set off with you right now. In 5 days, we'll just happen to arrive at the Emperor God Fiend battlefield," said the Dark Star God King. Long Chen did not say anything else. He directly set off. Several tens of thousands of God Kings stood outside the divine battlefield to see off Long Chen. It could be said that Long Chen was basically their dream. Now, he bore their dreams and set off for the Emperor God Fiend battlefield to challenge them. This time, they would not be able to watch the battle. "Brothers, I will definitely bring you good news. In 5 days' time, all you need to do is cheer." Long Chen was more composed than anyone else. He was extremely confident when he said that. When the God Kings heard that, they all admired Long Chen's valiance. They cheered as they saw off Long Chen and set foot on the battlefield. But actually, Long Chen would be facing an unparalleled god, Mo Sang, and thousands of terrifying God Kings. The Emperor God Fiend battlefield would definitely be hiding many terrifying figures, or even figures close to godhood. Along the way, the Dark Star God King introduced the situation of the battlefield to Long Chen. In fact, the Emperor battlefield is slightly different from the King battlefield. Of course, the Emperor battlefield is an original incipient grade creator divine weapon. Another thing is that the King battlefield's main God Kings are from the Northern Star region. For example, the top 4 of the God King list are all from the Heaven Region Alliance. The Eastern Star region, the Southern Star region, and the Western Star region all have God Kings who are comparable to heavenly gods. However, the Emperor battlefield is different because the Emperor battlefield faces the entire universe. The rankings on the Divine Emperor list are actually quite close to the rankings of the entire universe. For example, the top 3 of the Divine Emperor list aren't from our Northern Star region, and their cultivation bases are said to be able to fight against ultimate gods. Long Chen could defeat a God King now, and so could an unparalleled god. So it was actually not too much of an exaggeration for the top 3 of the Divine Emperor ranking to contend against a sovereign god. After all, the Divine Emperor ranking was even more important than the God King ranking. It was a ranking of true experts, while those on the God King ranking were only experts of the next generation at most. What the Dark Star God King meant was that the Divine Emperor ranking was more realistic and weighty. Its influence across the universe would be countless times greater than the God King ranking. Even the first on the God King ranking was not a heaven-defying expert, only a heaven-defying genius. However, those on the Divine Emperor ranking were truly heaven-defying experts. Most of the God Kings in the Emperor battlefield come from other worlds. In particular, the existences on the Divine Emperor ranking rarely stay in the Emperor battlefield. Most of them are in their own worlds. After all, world wars often break out here, so they need to watch over them. They only come to the Divine Emperor ranking for some major events. If someone challenges them, they have to go find them directly. After all, the Emperor battlefield is just a battlefield. It can't keep people trapped here. Those are all true experts. In other words, if I have a chance of challenging the Divine Emperor ranking in the future, I'll have to cross worlds to find them. It'll take me a few decades. The Dark Star God King said, "That's true. A few decades is just a split second. Actually, what I mean is that there probably aren't a lot of people on the Divine Emperor ranking among the spectating Divine Emperors this time, and most of them are from the Northern region, so you don't have to feel too pressured. Of course, There are also divine emperors like the blissful divine emperor, the Tushan divine emperor, and so on. They're all existences on the divine emperor ranking. There are still many experts like them. Chapter 2900. No matter what, the king-level God-fiend battlefield could only be regarded as a greenhouse on Mount Buzhou. The emperor-level God-fiend battlefield was the true spectacle. The difference between the emperor and king-level God-fiend battlefields is that the emperor-level God-fiend battlefield does not have 200 floors. Instead, there are only 10. Apart from the topmost floor, the divine emperors on the other floors can move around freely. The battlefield you'll be fighting in this time is the Golden River battlefield on the 4th floor, the Golden River realm. Normally speaking, primordial divine emperors have no right to fight in the Golden River battlefield on the 4th floor, as the first 3 floors are enough to support battles between primordial divine emperors. The 4th, 5th, and 6th floors are completely capable of supporting battles between primordial divine emperors and emerge unscathed. As for the 7th floor, it can support battles between final divine emperors. The situation like when you fought the formless God King last time won't happen again. As it turned out, this was how the Emperor-level God-fiend battlefield was set up. There were only 10 battlefields in total. After all, there were very few divine emperors, and they did not fight often. How many divine emperors are there in the Emperor-level God-fiend battlefield? Long Chen asked. Around 3,000. Most of them are divine emperors from the northern region. They're more mobile. The number of divine emperors across the myriad worlds obviously far exceeds this number. As for the existences on the divine emperor ranking, around 30 of them will be here. These 30 are constantly working hard to become god-fiends. Once they become god-fiends, they'll be supreme rulers of the myriad worlds. Long Chen could obviously imagine that. There were quite a few final divine emperors like the divine emperor of Bliss and the divine emperor of Tushan. However, there were very few who could skip a realm and reach God-fiend, like the ruler of the Dark Sky region. The ruler of the Dark Sky region could crush the divine emperor of Bliss and the divine emperor of Tushan. The emperor-level God-fiend battlefield was where all the divine emperors gathered for the sake of becoming supreme gods. The battle between the god-emperor rankings will naturally cause a huge commotion and have terrifying destructive power. If they want to fight on Fiend God Buzhou Mountain, then the most suitable place would be the 10th level of the Emperor Fiend God battlefield. The 10th level is called the Bridge of Tai. As the name suggests, it's a bridge to the Tai realm. I won't have the chance. I hope you can set foot on the Tai Bridge one day. Without a doubt, the Dark Star Divine King yearned for a place like the Bridge of Great Change very much. However, he understood that this was his limit. He wasn't considered strong among the Great Perfection Divine Emperors. The two of them moved forward and entered the Divine Emperor domain, heading towards the battlefield of the Emperor-class Godfiends. Long Chen couldn't wait to see what the battlefield of the Emperor-class Godfiends looked like. Now, the 3,000 Emperor Gods, unrivaled Heavenly God, and Mo Sang should be waiting for me. Even so, Long Chen felt both pressure and excitement. There was a challenge ahead, and he was going to overcome it. A good man should have such lofty sentiments. By the way, you killed 2 Eternal God Clan's God Emperors. The 6 God Emperors naturally know about it. I'm afraid they're already waiting for you at the Emperor God Fiend battlefield. They have the Heavenly Domain kill order, so I can't protect you. Before you challenge unrivaled Heavenly God, they won't dare to do anything. If you lose, they might come after you with the Heavenly Region kill order. It's fine. Long Chen smiled indifferently. The Eternal God Clan's strongest god sacrificial art and heavenly fusion art had been broken by Long Chen. To Long Chen, they were just a bunch of trash. All right. Young man, you're hot-blooded. Challenge authority and surpass your limits. Shake the children of the ultimate gods, make your name known in the myriad worlds, and create miracles. The dream of my dark star when I was young is all on you. Complete it. No problem. The two of them laughed. Although it was the final battle, a battle of the pinnacle, and there was also Mo Sang and the Eternal God Clan, Long Chen was filled with pride. He looked at the thick fog ahead, his heart surging. He was the ancestral dragon's inheritor. The last hope of the dragon sacrificial continent. Divine Demon Buzhou Mountain, the battlefield of the Emperor-class god-fiends. Even if there were billions of heavens, who could stop him? God-emperors, emperors among gods, every one of them was a generational genius of the myriad worlds. After tens of millions of years of cultivation, they could reverse heaven and earth and control billions of living beings. Every one of them was like a sky demon of the past era. Every single one of them was at the same realm of cultivation as Jun. Now, 3,000 god-emperors were gathered in the king deity battlefield, waiting for Long Chen. In 5 days, the Dark Star God-Emperor crossed the mountains and rivers of Mount Buzhou with Long Chen, breaking through the many demonic barriers and experiencing several dangers on the mountain. On the most lofty mountain up ahead, Long Chen finally saw a black tower. It was pure black and did not seem large, but in reality, it was 10 times the size of the king deity battlefield. Every floor was as large as the entire king deity battlefield. Only with a closer look did he realize just how small the king deity battlefield was. The king deity battlefield was a primordial incipient god artifact, only a grade weaker than the origin dragon palace in Long Chen's divine kingdom. However, it was controlled by a sovereign god, so the power it could unleash obviously surpassed the origin dragon palace that Long Chen still could not control right now. The tall, black tower was unadorned. It was simple, ancient, and covered in rust. After experiencing the endless years, it seemed like it could collapse naturally at any time. It even tottered on the verge of collapse, like the emperor was about to fall off the mountain and shatter to pieces. But that was not the case. The tower continued to stand, existing eternally. Is this the power of a primordial origin? It gave off a different feeling from an eternal god artifact. It felt even more ancient, closer to the most ancient state of the universe. An eternal god artifact was similar to the god realm of absolute beginning like a final god king, but this primordial origin was even more primordial, even more beyond it. Cultivation is a form of atavism, returning to the most primitive state of the universe. Returning to the moment of primordial origin, returning to the land of origin, going from Taiji to grand simplicity, then to grand beginning, and finally to the most chaotic Tai. Tai is the state of the land of origin. It's said that only by returning to the point of origin can one transcend an atavism, reaching the final realm of the ancestor. It was just that the ancestor realm, that was the dream of supreme deities. The myriad worlds have no ancestors. The Dark Star God King could not help but say when he saw the primordial incipient god artifact. It was a simple sentence, but it left a deep impression in Long Chen's heart, allowing all of his comprehensions to transcend to a whole new level. So cultivation is tracing the origins of the myriad worlds, pursuing the grand beginning, and returning to Tai. In more direct terms, it's atavism. This comprehension rumbled through his head. The ancestral dragon was the ancestor. He was chasing after the most ancient footsteps, tracing the origins. In the past, he was not too sure why the god realms were divided into the divine realm of Taiji, divine realm of grand essence, divine realm of absolute beginning, and divine realm of Tai. It was clear now. Taiji referred to the state of the universe in which yin and yang were separated. Grand essence referred to the state of the universe in which primordial matter existed. Grand beginning referred to the state of the universe in which the universe was created. It was intangible, not visible to the senses. It was the state of the universe in which the universe was even more primordial than chaos. Tai referred to the state of the universe in which there was only boundless nothingness. These 5 were the true realms of gods. Gods, divine lords, divine kings, divine emperors, and divine venerables were just abbreviations for cultivation realms that gods and demons referred to. It was also a similar correspondence. For example, once they reached the divine realm of absolute beginning and returned to the state of the universe in which there was no form or substance, a state of the universe that was even more primordial than chaos, they would be emperors among gods. Once they reached Tai, they would be supreme sovereigns. That was why there was the term supreme dragons. As for the ancestor realm, it surpassed the boundless nothingness. Actually, this was also the origin of the name boundless divine technique. Evolving from Tai to Taiji was a path of no return. Now, Long Chen's truest realm was the divine realm of grand beginning. Compared to when he was in the divine realm of grand essence, he could sense the primordial power even more clearly. From the divine realm of grand essence to the divine realm of grand beginning, the changes to his divine power and laws were all returning. With this comprehension, his heart became much calmer again, even if there were 3,000 divine emperors and everything that awaited him right before him. "I'll take you in," The Dark Star God Emperor patted his shoulder and walked at the front, rushing up the mountain with Long Chen, heading towards the colossal black tower. This was a tower 2 grades higher than the Demon Suppression Tower. It was the ancestor of the Demon Suppression Tower, which was why even the Demon Suppression Tower began to pity him when he arrived here. Long Chen. Suddenly, Li Xuanji's frantic voice rang out. It had been a very long time since Long Chen had heard her voice. She'll be watching the battle, right? It's fine. Don't worry. I'm ready. Long Chen responded to her quickly. She was Long Chen's demon. All she had to do was call out, and Long Chen knew what she was frantic about. Yeah. But no matter how nervous she was, when she heard what Long Chen said, her voice still calmed down quite a lot. Actually, she had always been a person who feared nothing. All she could say was that this divine Emperor Mo Sang really knew how to cause too much trouble. The battlefield of Emperor Demons. Standing below his feet and looking up, they could not see the top of the tower. It was barren. The Dark Star God Emperor advanced politely. Before they entered the battlefield of Emperor Demons, an old man suddenly appeared before Long Chen and the Dark Star God Emperor. He was a white-haired old man. He was extremely burly and wore heavy armor. There was some white hair on his face, and his face was slightly flushed. He gave off a dignified air without being angry, which made him seem a little like an ape. The brutal divine might surged over. Let alone Long Chen, even the Dark Star God Emperor shuddered, almost dropping to his knees before the God Emperor. Greetings from Junior Dark Star to the Heavenly Ape Divine Emperor. Dark Star said in a hurry. The Heavenly Ape Divine Emperor had basically given Long Chen and the Dark Star God Emperor a severe warning, a show of strength. However, he had not done it on purpose. He was just powerful, which was why he was like that. Forget it. The Heavenly Ape Divine Emperor's voice was heavy. His gaze was completely fixed on Long Chen. He did not need Long Chen to bow. He only glanced at Long Chen a few more times and said, "Kid, it's a path of blades and fire inside, a path of death. Are you really bold enough to enter and accept this challenge of life and death?" Chapter 2901. You sure are courageous. I, the Heavenly Ape, like you very much. You've never met me before, but can you guess who I am? The Divine Emperor's voice was forceful. Although he was speaking in a friendly tone, it was still domineering. Every word he uttered was filled with overwhelming pressure. Long Chen thought about it for a moment. It was true that he had never come into contact with a Heavenly Ape Deity Emperor, and that he had nothing to do with this ultimate Deity Emperor. But when he thought about it, it seemed that he had sensed the Deity Emperor's presence before. Suddenly, an answer came to him. The Heavenly Ape Deity Emperor must be the master of the King-class battlefield. The Divine Emperor smiled. That's right. You're smart. The King-grade God Fiend battlefield looked like a towering pillar that could take the form of a staff. The Divine Emperor must have been on the Divine Emperor ranking to be able to wield an eternal grade fortune artifact, and he should have ranked above the blissful Divine Emperor. The fact that a Divine Emperor could wield an eternal grade fortune artifact was the same as the fact that Long Chen and the other Divine Kings could wield chaotic grade fortune artifacts. There were very, very few of them. Even among the Divine Kings, only the top 10 of the Divine King ranking possessed chaotic grade infinite divine techniques or fortune artifacts. There were no more than 100 of them in the entire universe. This showed that the Divine Emperor should still be one of the rulers of the king-level battlefield. Long Chen naturally admired such a powerful figure. Di Jun has the eternal grade eternal opal, which is a chaotic treasure. So he should be weaker than the Divine Emperor? Long Chen guessed. The king-level battlefield had a Divine King ranking, but there was no Divine Emperor ranking on the surface of the king-level battlefield. The fourth floor, the realm of Golden River, is all set up. All that's left is for you. Come with me. The Divine Emperor cut to the chase and led the way. The battle was already on the verge of breaking out the moment Long Chen arrived. All the Divine Emperors had been waiting for Long Chen. Here, even the Dark Star Emperor, Donghua Emperor, and so on were insignificant figures, only fit to fight on the 4th and 5th floors. The Heavenly Ape Deity Emperor was very impatient. He directly took action, grabbing Long Chen with one hand and the Dark Star Deity Emperor with the other. He rushed into the battlefield and immediately felt like the stars had shifted. The stars before him changed, and the winds whistled. In the blink of an eye, Long Chen felt like he had already passed through the first 3 floors and arrived at the 4th floor of the battlefield. The realm of Golden River. We're here. The Heavenly Ape Divine Emperor released Long Chen and the Dark Star Divine Emperor. Before the Heavenly Ape Divine Emperor, the two of them were as puny as birds. When he saw the realm of Golden River clearly, Long Chen finally understood why it was called that. In front of him was a boundless starry sky. Although this was the first layer of the God-Fiend battlefield, it was also a boundless world. One could not see the end of it at a glance. It was much larger than the first layer of the God-Fiend battlefield. The space on this floor should be the space of the 200 floors of the battlefield combined. In the endless starry sky, there were naturally countless stars. There were hundreds of stars like the Divine Demon Heavenly Star, but there were even more tiny, fragmentary stars. More importantly, all the stars were golden. Pure gold. There were millions of fragmentary stars in front of him, all golden and shining. As a result, what appeared before Long Chen was a golden river of stars, extremely dazzling and surging. This was the realm of Golden River, the battlefield of Golden River. The battlefield of Golden River was only the 4th floor of the battlefield of Divine Emperors. The vastness of the battlefield of Golden River made Long Chen look forward to the Bridge of Tai on the 10th floor. In the center of the Golden River is the battlefield of Golden River. Let's go! The Heavenly Ape Deity Emperor growled and shot forward. He moved very quickly, such that Long Chen and the Dark Star Emperor had to use everything they had to chase after him. Moreover, the Heavenly Ape Deity Emperor constantly increased his speed, turning into a speck before them in the blink of an eye. This had basically surpassed the limits of Long Chen and the Dark Star Emperor, so they could only chase after him with everything they had. A streak of dark starlight and a blood-red figure. To the Dark Star Emperor's surprise, Long Chen's speed was actually on par with his. Although he could go a little faster, it was a miracle that Long Chen could reach this level. When they pushed themselves to the limit, they barely caught up to the Divine Emperor, but they were not completely shaken off. "You're too slow," the Divine Emperor said with some dissatisfaction. However, Long Chen knew that he definitely did not feel that way. He might even be surprised by his speed. After all, he wanted to test himself. But that was not important. Long Chen had already entered the Golden River of Stars. Everywhere was resplendent gold. Every single huge star seemed to be completely forged from gold, shining brightly. Passing through the golden light, Long Chen suddenly saw a continent up ahead. A golden continent. This was the center of the realm of Golden River. This golden continent was the 4th floor of the battlefield of the Golden River. Although the continent was not as large as the Eternal Divine Realm, it was actually half the size of the Dragon God Realm. Half the Dragon God Realm could house hundreds of millions of lives, but here, it was only a battlefield for 2 Divine Emperors. Fighting here could minimize the damage the Divine Emperors could cause to the world. Today, you are the protagonist of the battlefield of the Golden River. The Heavenly Ape Deity Emperor stopped in his tracks. Under the illumination of the countless golden stars, his hair had turned into a dazzling golden color. The golden continent in front of him was incomparably heavy, exuding an aura of extreme majesty. It looked even more solid than the Mount Buzhou. Clearly, a complete Divine Emperor was nowhere close to being able to destroy the battlefield of the Golden River. You can fight without worry. Among the Divine Emperors present, only a few dozen can destroy the battlefield of the Golden River. You're nowhere near qualified. The Divine Emperor said bluntly. The Divine Emperors present. Long Chen could feel that the 3,000 Divine Emperors had already arrived. They were on the surrounding 3,000 golden stars, and when Long Chen arrived, he was already in their sights. "Go," the Heavenly Ape Deity Emperor urged. Long Chen did not hesitate. He flew alone toward the Golden Continent, the battlefield of the Golden River. Unrivaled Empyrean had not yet appeared on the battlefield of the Golden River. It seemed that he would have to fight first. The fact that this battle was arranged on the battlefield of the Golden River instead of the other 3 was enough to show how much importance they were placed on them. This battle had attracted the attention of all the Divine Emperors. The 3,000 Divine Emperors were among the 3,000 golden stars, and every one of them was looking at Long Chen with scrutinizing eyes, giving Long Chen immense pressure. Among the 3,000 Divine Emperors, there were hundreds of ultimate Divine Emperors like the Tushan Divine Emperor and the Skirich Divine Emperor. They came from all over the world. They came from all directions. Since they were here to challenge their limits, then every divine emperor was naturally a formidable figure. Their gazes made Long Chen feel as if he was a lamb walking into a pack of 3,000 wolves. The gazes of those hungry wolves could crush Long Chen. Clearly, the pressure of their divine emperors was a test for Long Chen. If he could not make it to the battlefield of the Golden River, then he would not be qualified to challenge the number 1 on the God King ranking. Therefore, every divine emperor put in more effort. Looking up, the 3,000 golden stars seemed to be pressing down on Long Chen's head. The divine might was overwhelming. If it were any other ultimate God King, such as Ling Luo, they would have been knocked unconscious under the gaze of so many divine emperors. Heh! However, for Long Chen, he had forgotten who they were. If he only considered strength, he was actually a wolf, not a lamb in a pack of wolves. In fact, he was even stronger than some of the wolves in the pack. After all, among the 3,000 divine emperors, nearly 2,000 were primordial realm divine emperors. Clearly, some of them were not Long Chen's match. The ones who were truly a threat to Long Chen were the ultimate god emperors and some of the perfected god emperors. Among them, there were a few gazes that Long Chen could tell. He looked up and indeed, on one of the stars stood 6 identical divine emperors. They were the eternal celestial race. At this moment, their faces were filled with murderous intent. Only one of them held a white token facing Long Chen. In the middle of the token was the word kill. The word kill was a mental attack. They were naturally telling Long Chen that he would not be able to escape today. Under the divine might of the divine emperors, Long Chen turned a deaf ear to them. He turned into a bloody shadow and passed through the golden waves, stepping onto the golden continent for the first time. The entire world was dazzling gold. There was not a speck of dust beneath his feet, only hard metal. When he looked up, he could see countless golden stars. Stepping onto the Golden River battlefield, Long Chen's blood suddenly boiled. This was the battlefield of countless divine emperors, where many glorious existences had been born. Today, Long Chen was here, about to engage in his most crucial battle. Unrivaled Empyrean had not arrived yet. The fact that he could reach the Golden River battlefield meant that the suppression of the 3,000 divine emperors was useless. This undoubtedly made the divine emperors no longer look down on Long Chen. Long Chen saw some familiar faces, such as High Bliss Divine Emperor, Tushan Divine Emperor, Skirich Divine Emperor, Emperor E Divine Emperor, and other god emperors who had been to the king-level god-fiend battlefield. There was also Xueqi, Ji Taishu, and others. And that alluring familiar aura. Mo Sang was definitely here. The divine emperors were extremely quiet. Where is unrivaled Empyrean? The heavenly ape divine emperor's voice rang out, echoing throughout the realm of Golden River. But there was no response. Unrivaled Empyrean had not arrived yet. He was probably busy with something important. But right at this moment, a woman's voice suddenly sounded out. She said, "Everyone, don't be in such a hurry to have them fight. I have to confirm some small things. Of course, it's with Long Chen." Long Chen instantly locked on to her position. Mo Sang. This voice had the unique cold charm of a woman of the 9 ancestor realm. Although cold, it was bone-numbing. Ling Luo was fine, but Mo Sang's voice was vivid. She was on one of the golden stars. In her divine kingdom, Li Xuanji was there. Long Chen had crossed thousands of mountains and rivers, but he had never been so close to her. And now her heart was racing and her eyes were wet. Long Chen could feel her heartbeat. Sang? Hearing this voice, everyone was puzzled.